Opposition amendments to the redress scheme for the survivors to limit time for the chief deciding officer's decision making. Deputy Pringle says time cannot be wasted in putting the adequate legislation in place.
As soon as practical words, when you see them in legislation, that just sends a chill down my spine, because I know that that's as soon as practical for people in the real world and as soon as practicable for people in the legislative world and in the world of government and dealing with it are two very different things. God knows all these people are known to the state and should be known to the state, and that's it. So there shouldn't be much deciding in terms of what's needed in relation to it.
Weather now dry today with some sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
It's not just that Sarah can't rely on the rains to come this year. It's not just that the only water left could cost her life. It's not just that she has seen all her crops destroyed and she is struggling to feed her little boy. Like thousands of parents living in regions devastated by drought, Sarah is living in fear, and it's not just. This Lent, your help can make all the difference. Visit trocra.org or call 1-800 408 408. Trocra. Together for a just world.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. This is the 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. Donal Kavanagh with you on the show this morning until 12 noon. It's Monday, it's the 27th of February. And it was a chilly enough morning, but hey, it stayed dry. So if you were out walking this morning, it was a nice morning for a walk. And if you're thinking of going out, well, it's still nice out there at the moment. So get on those walking shoes and out you go. It'll do us all good. We start with the newspapers as always, but before we go there, let's just talk about contacting the show, because as we always say, we have a long programme lined up for you today with a lot of very interesting items, but most importantly, this show is here to take your views, listen to your opinions and listen to your perspectives on the events of the day, both in the northwest and further afield. If you want to call us, you can do so on 074 9120 5000. Donna Marie is producing and taking your calls. Anya taking your calls outside as well. You can also text or WhatsApp us on 086 60 20 5000. You can contact us via social media. It's at Highland Hub on Facebook. It's at Highland Radio on Twitter. We're also on Instagram and Snapchat and all the others. You can watch the show live, by the way, on our Facebook pages and also on our Highland Radio Ireland YouTube channel as well. So if you want to watch the programme, you can do so. And a very good morning to all of you who are watching today. We begin, as I said, with the papers. It's a Monday, which means we have the Monday edition of the Donegal News. Main story, star-studded concert marks 50 years of Ornagy. 300 guests attend a celebration at Artlan Gweedore to celebrate Radio na Gaeltachta's 50 years on the air, and congratulations to them. They provide a great service for the Gaeltacht parts of the county. They had the cream of the crop in a Ceolgailach from Donegal, Tyrone, Derry and Belfast as well. Lovely picture of Alton and Nimuni on stage in Gweedore there. Also on the front of the Donegal News, a story we are going to return to a little bit later in the programme, and that is the story of Falcarra Hospital to get an upgrade. Refurbishment work that will bring the hospital to 100% capacity will begin before the summer. The HSE has published its tender documents. A section of the unit's actually been closed since early last year because of the condition of the building. So good news there in Falcarra. That work set to begin later this year. We'll, as I say, be returning to that a little later on and speaking to one of the local councillors in that area. Derry News this morning, Zero Waste Northwest withdraws support from council. The Zero Waste Northwest organisation has withdrawn its endorsement of Derry City and Strabane District Council's Zero Waste City Region status. The organisation says it lost confidence in any real ambition on the part of the council to become a zero waste city. However, the group hasn't closed the door to the possibility of a real partnership between the council and itself in the future. And also 50 years in show business. Felix Healy makes a presentation to Willie Barrett to mark his 50th year in show business at a celebration function held in the Abercorn Bar in Derry, and that story covered in the Derry News as well. Moving on to the Nationals, Irish Independent. Former Taoiseach Enda Kenny on the mend after cancer op. He's in robust good health and well on the road to a full recovery, we're told. And that's Enda Kenny, their big photograph. Also on the front of the paper, the great fixed rate mortgage cliff edge. Borrowers warned they could face repayment hikes of €500 a month following spiralling interest rates. Thousands of homeowners, Charlie Weston writes, coming to the end of fixed rate mortgages have been warned they face hikes of almost €500 in their monthly repayments. Around 50,000 homeowners will roll off fixed rates in the next 3 years. Those who had their rates fixed at 2.5% over 5 years could now be facing a 5.9% interest rate instead. Front of the paper also has that horrific story that we saw over the weekend. Children among dead as nearly 60 migrants perish in Italy shipwreck. Almost 60 people, including children, died after a boat carrying around 150 migrants crashed into rocks in rough seas off the southern Italian coast. Front of the Irish Times this morning. Sunak to sign NI protocol deal with EU. You've been hearing the story with Michaela on News all morning, of course, and over the weekend with Jade as well. The British Prime Minister is expected to seek Cabinet approval and make a statement with regards to a deal with the EU on the protocol. The focus now shifts to Donaldson's reaction and the potential restoration of power sharing. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, will meet in the UK today with a view towards signing that new agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol. It follows months of negotiations, but everyone is warning, while we're close, we haven't signed on the dotted line yet, and there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, and nowhere is that phrase more appropriate than in Northern Ireland and when it comes to discussions on things like the protocol. Also, a really stunning photograph on the front of the Times. A photograph of breeding frogs taken in the Dublin Mountains. Rana temporaria, or the common frog, is Ireland's only native species of frog. They breed in early spring. Now, I have to confess, I am looking at that picture this morning, and I suspect some other people of a certain age, same age as me, maybe 50 plus, shall we say, we're all doing the same thing in our heads. We're all going bum 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 bum. And Donna Marie is looking at me because she is a rather younger person than I am. Donna Marie's looking at me going, what is he doing? Donna Marie, trust me, anyone over 50 knows exactly what that means. I'll tell you later, I promise. Anya's looking at me weirdly as well, for exactly the same reason. Because I'm do you know what? Yeah, it's probably true that Anya's and Donna Marie's age combined still doesn't come close to mine. That's the truth of it. Irish Daily Mail this morning. Relief for renters as vacant properties targeted. Measures designed to avoid a cliff edge on homelessness as eviction ban set to be ended. New measures to protect renters are being planned by the government amid fears that thousands could face homelessness if the eviction ban is lifted. Christian McCashin writes, the moratorium on evictions is due to lapse at the end of March, and while the government hasn't yet decided if it'll be extended, a range of measures are being explored to avoid a cliff edge scenario. Now, we know at Donegal County Council level locally, certainly the council has been looking at this whole issue of vacant properties and how vacant properties can be used for homing people. And indeed, Letterkenny Municipal District, Letterkenny Milford Municipal District recently had a very lengthy discussion about the fact that the area, and in particular the town, now qualifies for this latest round of urban development funding, and there's a big emphasis there on vacancy and dereliction and taking vacant and derelict homes and buildings and bringing those back into use, so that there is a huge push on this both locally and nationally, it seems, as well. And I know certainly Donegal County Council over the course of the past year there hasn't been, I would confidently say, there hasn't been a plenary meeting of Donegal County Council that issues of vacant buildings and dereliction and housing have not been raised. And obviously there is an added dimension to the whole housing issue in Donegal because, of course, we now have the prospect over the next 5 years plus, and probably 5 years and quite a few years added on to that, we'll have the prospect of defective block homes being demolished and rebuilt, and people having to live in alternative accommodation while their homes are being demolished and rebuilt or being restored to their proper. And I think in most cases it now appears, if we're to be realistic, it now does appear that in most cases it is going to be demolition and rebuilding. So we have that added dimension to the housing issue here, that as well as your standard level of people who are homeless, you also have people who are going to need temporary accommodation because of the circumstances they find themselves in. And that's an ongoing debate and discussion. Modular homes, one of the issues being discussed, of course. Whether that's going to come to anything remains to be seen. But right at this point in time, the government does seem to be blowing cold on that particular idea. But I know a lot of councillors locally are keeping up that pressure. Let's move on to the Irish Daily Mirror. Pals pay tribute. Stabbed teen loses fight for life. Tributes have been paid to a teenager who died last night following an alleged knife attack. Marius Mamalagia, apologies for that pronunciation, by the way, passed away 3 days after suffering a neck wound in a car in County Dublin. Pals raised over €10,500 for his family. And that's the front of the Irish Daily Mirror. The same story is on the front of the Irish Daily Star. Forever in our hearts, one of the phrases on that post put up by friends of Marius after they raised over €10,500 for his family. One friend said he will be forever in our hearts. Also on the front of the Irish Daily Star, a really horrible, horrible story. Find the callous mob who drowned my dogs. A distraught man has spoken out of his heartbreak after sick thugs drowned his 2 pet dogs in a barrel during a burglary at his home. Kieran Gunnar Cunningham said he wants the evil burglars to face justice for the callous killing of his 2 pets, Penny and Puppy. It happened at his home in Ardfinnan in County Tipperary on February 11th. And that is indeed a horrendous story. Let's look at the front of the Irish Sun. A Cork woman in spy claim unmasked Russian agent in Dole. A picture of an Irish citizen who's been accused of being a Russian spy by Australian officials. Marina Sologub, 39, who worked in the Dole, is being booted out of Australia following a security operation by intelligence chiefs down under. Former Fine Gael TD Bernard Allen, for whom she worked, said, "I am gobsmacked." Taoiseach Micheál Martin has revealed that she is seeking Irish consular help. That's the story of Marina Sologub, who previously worked in the Dáil and is now, it appears, being treated as a potential Russian agent by the Australians and is being kicked out of that country. Well, that's the way it's looking on the 9 till noon show for the moment. We're going to take a short break. Back after these.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
Foley's Bakery.
In changing times, you need the right support to take the next step in building your business.
Foley's Cafe.
At Bank of Ireland, we're here to support the financial well-being of your business as it grows, with faster, easier loan applications and dedicated business teams when you need them.
Hello, Foley's Coffee Roasters.
Search Bank of Ireland Business. Bank of Ireland. Begin. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The great value menu at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny is packed full of family favourites. Try one of the famous Jake's Burgers, a mouth-watering pancake stack, or an all-day breakfast. Bring a friend or bring all the family and enjoy the mid-term kids deal for just $6.50 with free ice cream to top it all off. Great food and great value at Kelly's award-winning diner, Mountaintop Letterkenny.
We at Highland Radio love Irish music and we want to show our support. Throughout Irish Music Month this March, in partnership with Hot Press Magazine, we're asking you to support the Irish musicians, artists and bands who make every party, every drive home and every day magic. That's right. To celebrate Irish Music Month on Highland Radio, we're asking you to support Irish artists and musicians by buying Irish albums, Irish tickets, Irish t-shirts and Irish music merch. Irish musicians have shown that they are right up there with the best in the world, so let's support them by buying Irish. Proudly supported by Highland Radio, Hot Press, IBI and the BAI Sound and Vision Fund.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Just some of your comments, texts and queries that have been coming in. I got a text message from ESB saying I was eligible for a discounted electricity under the Energy Support Scheme. You can apply here. And then there was a link. I opened it and it showed a government.ie page. I then started to fill it in until they asked for my bank details. That's when I got suspicious. I'm wondering if that's a scam and if any of your listeners got that text. Now, I'm not aware of that particular one, Paula. It does sound a bit suspicious, and I'll tell you the reason I say that, because to my mind, if someone is offering you discounted electricity, surely the first thing that they're going to either ask for or give to you is your account number. Now, I mean your account number with your provider. So to my mind, if someone is offering you a discount with the ESB, my thought on it would be that, you know, your ESB, or be it whatever provider, be you Energia or Bord Gáis or whichever provider you're with, I would have thought they would, number one, know that, and number two, they would ask you for your account number. If they're asking straight for your bank account details without anything else, that does sound fishy to me. But what I would do is I would contact your electricity provider, whoever that may happen to be, and run it by them. It may be genuine, and certainly if there's an opportunity to get some sort of a deal, I wouldn't give it up, but it does... there is a distinct whiff of mackerel of that one to me, but I am naturally suspicious of that sort of stuff, and I know I've actually missed on messages because I refuse to open anything that I do not know what it is, and I have actually missed genuine messages from friends as a result. But I would always play the better safe than sorry game, and if I am not familiar with the item in question, I will not open it. I'm going to go to Aidan on line 1. Aidan, good morning to you.
How you doing?
Aidan, your son has Asperger's and is reliant on bus Éireann to get around, but there are inconsistencies in the service that are causing problems.
That's right, yeah. My son currently attends the National Learning Network Employability Skills Programme in Letterkenny. He's dependent on getting a bus. We live rurally. And the only way for him really to attend his education is to be reliant on a bus service. As you've mentioned there, he has Asperger's, which means he finds it extremely difficult to be in crowds. He finds it very, very difficult as well to deal with uncertainty. So what he's been faced with is proven extremely challenging to him. I suppose if we go back to September of last year when he started with National Learning Network, I would have, because this was such a big step for him, literally until that point, he would have been getting a minibus from his home, taking him to school, and the minibus would have been taking him back. So all of this idea of getting a bus was a completely new thing to him. So for a few times, I would have went on the bus journey with him in order, that he knew what he had to do. And on all of them occasions, the bus was so late, it was ridiculous. We're talking about a bus that's meant to leave at 3:30 that never left at the earliest point before 3:45, and frequently, consistently past that time. And really, we found that the only way to deal with this was that I needed to organise alternative arrangements for my son.
Yeah,
that worked. That worked for up until about a week or so ago, and really it became clear that he needed to be attending a longer period of training, which meant that he needed to get this 3:30 bus home. And on the first day, which was Monday there last week, the bus didn't leave until 4 o'clock. On Tuesday, the 3:30 bus left Letterkenny at 4:30. And you can imagine the distress that my son was going through. Not knowing when the bus was going. He was dependent on getting a lift as well from where the bus would drop him off as well. So it just presented him with an awful lot of anxiety.
Yeah. I can give you. We put your case to Bus Éireann, and we do have a statement from them, Aidan, and the statement just says, and I'll read this for you. Bus Éireann fully appreciates the importance of reliable bus service to all passengers and apologises to customers where this is not delivered. We recognise that uncertainty around departure times can be stressful. Through the month of January, fewer than 20% of services on the route in question were delayed. However, there have been particular issues around the afternoon services, which are impacted by the extensive roadworks around Letterkenny. This is unfortunately not always predictable and is outside Bus Éireann's control and is likely to continue for a number of months. In relation to any other delays, that should not happen, and we encourage customers to contact us in the event that such issues arise. When provided with specific dates and times, we can address such matters as they arise, and then details of contacting, and I'm sure you have the details of contacting the customer supports and the complaint lines and so on. So effectively what they're saying is this is all down to, and we know there have been big roadworks on the 4-lane route going into the town at the moment, and that has been causing issues. Is that, do you accept that excuse, or do you think that's just something Bus Éireann is using as a handy excuse?
Absolutely claptrap is my answer to that. First of all, the bus is consistently late. The bus has never arrived on time. The bus actually has been at the bus depot. This is the thing. The bus has been on site at the bus depot well before 3:30. So for Bus Éireann to suggest that maybe it hasn't arrived at the bus depot is a complete fiction, an absolute lie.
In fairness, Aidan, I cannot stand over that word. And I think, in fairness, we have read a statement from the company. I would rather not stand over that word, if you don't mind. So I would ask you to withdraw that particular word, if you would, please.
I would point out my observation that the bus leaves late,
that's fair
and
enough.
it's been consistently late. The next thing is the bus is not late due to it not arriving on time. And the third point being that the inconsistency of this bus service has implications for a lot of people. For example, for my son, if this continues, I can see him giving up his education.
And that is the last thing anybody wants. Aidan, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. People will hear what you've had to say. Hopefully Bus Éireann are going to pay attention to this as well, and they will take a look at what's actually been happening with regards to the situation on that particular route. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. That's Aidan there speaking to us. Now, we were speaking earlier during the newspaper review about issues of housing. Delighted to say that I am now joined on Zoom this morning by Donal, who is the Sinn Féin housing spokesperson. Deputy O'Brien, good morning to you. Good morning, Deputy. Hang on, are we on the... Deputy O'Brien, good morning. I do have Deputy O'Brien on Zoom, but I can't hear him. I'm not sure if he can hear me. Deputy, good morning. No, I don't hear Deputy O'Brien at present, so if you bear with me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very quick break with apologies to Deputy O'Brien, particularly if he can hear me. I just don't have contact at the moment. I'm going to take a very quick break and we'll be back after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Hiya.
11 years, Sarah. 11 years.
Oh my God, is everything okay?
It's all off.
You and Paul?
No, my bank. We're breaking up.
Oh, Jane. There's plenty more fish in the CCPC money tool.
Breaking up with your bank? Quick, find another match with CCPC's free independent current account money tool. Find your new account now at ccpc.ie/move. From the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
Change is happening in Letterkenny, and for the better. Letterkenny Medics is a new private clinic, opening soon offering private healthcare. Dr. Mohammed and Dr. Ripu welcome new patients to their clinic, conveniently located on the Port Road. Open 7 days per week from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m, offering full medical checkups, including a full cardiac screening with echo, assessments of minor injuries, and the facility to complete minor surgeries without the long waiting times. To register, visit letterkennymedics.ie or call 085 867 5341. Letterkenny Medics. We listen if you want to talk.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
The annual general meeting of the Irish Natura and Hill Farmers Association Donegal County Executive will be held in the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny on Monday the 27th of February at 8 p.m. Mr. Charlie McConlogue, TD, Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, will be in attendance. Members and non-members are welcome.
And you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Now, sadly, we did have a Zoom link with O'Brien TD, but we do appear to have lost it, so apologies for that. Hopefully we will establish contact with Deputy O'Brien, because obviously we were going to discuss homelessness and issues of the eviction ban and so on and so forth, and its potential extension, and their important issues which we want to discuss with him. Just looking at some of your comments before we move on. We did that one, that's the ESB one. Another caller actually has come in saying, I got a text scam from someone pretending to be the ESB. I rang them to check it out, so if you're in doubt, just ring them up. Absolutely, I would say that. Caller says, Donal, I'm 47. The song was The Frog Chorus by Paul McCartney. It absolutely was. Well done. I absolutely love that piece of music, I have to be honest, and a lot of people will look at me very askance for this. If I were to sit down and do a list of my top 5 favourite songs that Paul McCartney has recorded, certainly as a solo artist, The Frog Chorus is absolutely up there in the top 5, if not the top 3. When it comes to the Beatles, it would be a little bit lower down, in fairness, but no, when it comes to Paul McCartney, The Frog Chorus, absolutely love it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Paul McCartney Frog Chorus on YouTube. An absolutely wonderful piece. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now, let's move on. We didn't get Deputy Owen O'Brien, but we can go to a different deputy. Joining us on line 1, Deputy Thomas Pringle. Thomas, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
Very well indeed. In the Dáil recently, Deputy Pringle, and you can hear this recording on our website, highlandradio.com, you have been reading the statements from some mother and baby home survivors into the Dáil record, and you're expressing grave concern that once again promises of redress are going to be delayed and cans are going to be kicked down the road and survivors are going to be left hanging in limbo.
Yeah, I think it's shocking, Donal, how the government has handled this whole redress scheme in relation to the mother and baby home survivors, where they have seemingly picked this arbitrary 6 months cut-off point, where basically if you had been in a mother and baby home up to 5 months and 30 days old, you wouldn't be entitled to redress, whereas if you were there till you were 6 months old, you are entitled to redress. And it seems to be only a rather brutal way of trying to save money that the state is doing, because we can't get any answers from the department as to why they've come up with this figure or what the rationale for arriving with this figure was. So it seems that it is only to try and save money, and that seems to be the only way. And it's just shocking that continuously the abuse of the mother-baby home survivors continues on, and the state continues to do it. And I do believe that we probably will have to be back addressing this again and making compensation claims available to everybody, right, regardless of how long they spent in the nursing home.
Now, I know you did back opposition moves last week to actually have that time limit scrapped and to have the process sped up. We heard very, very interesting testimony in the Dáil actually from Deputy Richard Boyd Barrett, who himself was adopted and himself is one of those who went through that system as a baby, so he was able to give his own very personal perspective. But the fact that you then read into the record the testimony of many of the mothers as well as some of the children, that added another dimension to that debate that did need to be heard.
Yeah, I think it was very important that I do that, because we were receiving a lot of contact from people who had gone through mother and baby homes and given their own personal testimonies, and they wanted to have their voices heard, and they wanted to know that they were being listened to, and so the state wasn't interested. So I thought it was important to put that on the record, and some of them were quite harrowing, the stories as well, and and I think it's important that those will be on the record, so that we know what we're dealing with, and we know that the people that the state is targeting and being doing such a wrong to again, and that's the thing that's really mind-boggling about this, is how the state decided to do this again. But I think it's probably symptomatic of that when you have a state that decides everything on value and money is the value of every wrong and everything that the state does, well then this is what you get.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to get sort of too semantic on words with you, but there was one phrase that you sort of said sent a chill up your spine, and that phrase was that the government will act and put measures in place as soon as is practicable. Now, one of the things with that phrase is many people sort of confuse the words practicable and practical. And now they are actually two very different words. Practical means whenever it's convenient. Practicable means whenever it's possible. Now, you seem to be suggesting that the government is using the word practicable, but what it actually means is practical.
Well, as been nice if it had been practical, but I think the government is a way of putting it on the wrong finger, and and people's understanding. Like the minister is adamant that the government is intent on moving quickly and solving all these issues, but the wording and the legislation doesn't provide for that. And if he was intent on doing this, he would have had no problem with putting in a time frame that the opposition was proposing, that they would deal with it within a set period of time, whatever that would be. But that's not there, and that wording and the legislation allows it to be basically how long is a piece of string, and what the government decides is practical is not, as could be 10 years from now as well. And that's the worrying thing, and that's the thing that shows that the wrong is going to continue on, and that has been done to people.
It sort of begs the question, has nothing been learned from some previous schemes? Because when you look right back to Bridget McCall and the hepatitis scandal and things like that, it appears that history is repeating itself in a way that one would have thought surely someone, be it in the political government or in the permanent civil service government, has learned from the past.
No, I think the only thing they've learned is that they want to cut down the amount of money that's being paid out, and they want to make it more difficult for people to get compensation for and it's where the state has completely wronged people and done terrible things, and it's about the state being responsible and making sure that that people know that the state is responsible for this. And if you combine what was happening in this legislation with what the Taoiseach has been saying over the last couple of weeks, that it's a choice between we pay for this stuff or we pay for childcare now at the minute, or we pay for the health services now at the moment. The reality is that the state did this. The state has to pay for it, because that's the only way that the state actually recognises that it has done any wrong. And it's not a question of either or, it's a question of that we have to do both.
Do you believe the government is trying to kick this into touch until after the next election?
Yeah. I think the government is trying to kick this into touch until some other government can deal with it, and it might even be the same government again that'll deal with it. But they don't care about that. It's just it's a short term thinking and short term working, and it means that we'll have to constantly come back and revisit these issues again in the future, and that's not fair on the people that have had suffered for so many years through it, and indeed it's not fair on the citizens that are here now as well, that are living under a new system, a supposedly new system. Where this wouldn't happen, but it's not fair on them either. That continuously has to be addressed.
Another issue that you have been addressing in the Dáil in recent days is that of the eviction ban. That ban is due to end in the coming weeks. There are strong calls, which I believe you are supporting, to have that eviction ban extended. We're reading this morning in papers that the government is now looking at utilising vacant homes as a potential answer to the housing crisis. You, I take it, wouldn't have too much confidence in that strategy?
No, look, vacant homes have been there for an awful long time, and the government has been talking for a long time about trying to do something with them. Now it's going to be the solution to the eviction ban. Vacant homes, how are they going to actually take control of them to have people who are being evicted move into them? I don't see how that's going to work. The eviction ban is a necessary tool in the crisis that we have at the moment, and I don't think anybody would envisage that it being a permanent ban or anything like that there, but it is necessary, and because people are being evicted into homelessness, and it's happening right across the country. We now have 1,400 children living in homeless across the country, and that figure has been consistent. It's gone up slightly over the last couple of years, but some of those children have moved out of homelessness and other children have come in, so it's actually probably maybe 4,000 or 5,000 children that have been homeless at some period over the last 3 or 4 years, and That's shocking figures, and we can't allow that to continue. And unfortunately, the only thing we can do is, at the moment, is make sure that there's no eviction ban, and make sure that that families aren't evicted into homelessness. I think that has to be the greater good at the minute, and that has to be worked on and pursued actively by the government. But I don't think the government are going to do that.
And as we've said, an added dimension to the housing question in this county, as you yourself have indeed reflected in recent speeches in the Dáil, the demolition and reconstruction of homes affected by defective blocks means there's going to be a lot of people looking for temporary accommodation, and that's going to put an extra pressure on the housing market and presumably the rental market as well here in Donegal.
Yeah, that's right, and it's going to make it even more difficult. And indeed, maybe a lot of the houses that may be available as second or as rental properties would be affected by MICA as well. So they wouldn't be available either. And this is going to be a huge problem. And I think the council should be a lot more proactive and should be actually at the stage now of identifying sites for temporary housing, like the I can't remember the name of it now, but basically the modular housing. The modular housing should be identified now, because that's what we're going to have in the future to ensure that there's enough houses repaired and that people will have somewhere to live while their houses are being repaired. And I think that system could be used and could be used quite successfully if they get down the road now and actually identify sites and make sure that those sites are serviced with water, sewage and electricity, so that when the modular homes come, that they'll actually can move in very quickly, because that's the delay, I think, in a lot of the modular sites, is that the services aren't there and aren't ready for the modular homes when they come in. And it's the only option that we have at the minute, because where are the families going to go at the moment who are going to be evicted or moved out of MICA homes while they're being repaired? Because the reality is, if we're going to deal with this MICA issue, we're going to have to be repairing a lot more houses annually than have been done at the moment. And even if we repair 200 houses a year, we're still going to be at least 15 years dealing with the MICA issue. So we have to do something, and we have to be preparing to do something. And unfortunately, I don't think that Donegal County Council are actually doing that. I think they're waiting for the department to tell them that they want to go with a modular housing option and then provide money for them to do it. And then the council then will start the ball rolling on it, which will be meaning that they'll lose another year and a half, 2 years.
But in fairness to the council, I think there's potentially an argument to say the council is really stuck between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, the council is being told by government, implement this scheme, you manage it, you run it, you do everything that needs to be done. But the government at the same time is limiting the amount of money it's giving to the council. And if the council isn't being given money by the government to progress the modular homes idea, the council is going to have to take that money from other areas, from its own housing budgets, from its own roads budgets or whatever. And then the council's going to be falling short when people start demanding, where's our services?
Yeah, but then the council can make the case to the government that this is what's happening, but the problem is that the council sits on its hands waiting for the government to decide that they're going to actually do something on it. Too much time is going to be lost.
So you believe Donegal County Council should effectively take the lead and use its own resources to start on the modular homes and then try and claim that money back from government?
Well, at least start preparing the site.
Yeah.
So that when the modular homes are actually, the problem is the government can decide tomorrow, oh yeah, you can have the modular homes, but the problem is that the sites have to be prepared, and from the point of the government saying it to the actual sites being purchased, sites being prepared, water, sewage, electricity, and everything put in, you're looking at probably a year and a half before all that's in place, before actual modular homes will actually go on site and people can be ready to move into them. Now, and that's unfortunately, I think is the reality of the situation. Now, there may be land that the council owns already that's available and they can start working on, but I think they should be doing the groundwork now to make sure that when the government actually gets their act together and makes a decision in relation to modular homes, that the council are in a position to deal with that and respond very quickly.
Deputy Thomas Pringle, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thanks, Donal. Cheers.
Thank you indeed. Deputy Thomas Pringle there. Just a call from a person saying redress should be for everyone. Shame on our government. Another caller, we were speaking about the potential of scams. Caller says, please warn the public there are fake €50 notes in circulation at the moment. We are a charity. We just found one in one of our collection areas. So fake €50 notes in circulation at present. Please do be aware of it. You will recall over the past few weeks there's been a lot of discussion about pedestrian crossings in the Ballybofey area. One in particular close to Glenfin Street in Ballybofey. We've had a note from a man saying, I was approaching that road and there was a man crossing quickly in grey-black attire on a black and white crossing. He was very difficult to see. This is an accident waiting to happen. The crossings need to be lit to save lives and injuries. Now, we know there is a pilot programme with these crossings that don't have lights attached to them, and that's happening around the country. Now, it seems from chatting particularly to Councillor Patrick McGowan in the Finn Valley area, that what's happening is there are pilot areas in, I think if I recall, it's Limerick, Dublin and Ballybofey and Stranora. But what they're doing is they're doing different things in each so they can assess and compare and contrast. So they have big signage before the crossings in Limerick, but they don't have signage in Donegal, and they don't have lights on the ones in Donegal. And certainly from what this caller is saying, a person sees the road marked out as a pedestrian crossing and may well assume, I can absolutely cross here with impunity. This is a crossing and people will know it's a crossing. The motorist approaching the crossing either doesn't know there's a crossing there because there's not enough signage, but also, can't see the person because you've got a person dressed in grey, dark clothing on a black and white marked crossing that doesn't have any lights on it. So that is, as our caller says, an accident waiting to happen, and thanks indeed for the call, and please do be aware on those crossings. Now, just got a note saying the road from Convoy to Rafo is very slippy, especially on corners. Now, I don't know if that's to do with frost or if it's to do with something else, but please, if you're travelling on that road between Rafo and Convoy, very slippy, we're told, particularly on the corners, and please do be careful.
Local Enterprise Week is back, and 2023 is all about finding that spark to inspire you to start, grow or scale your business. Running from Monday the 6th to Friday the 10th of March, Local Enterprise Week is organised by Local Enterprise Office Donegal. This year's events will stimulate creative thought, motivate action and encourage you to be brave in business. Booking is essential. To see the lineup of events and speakers and to book, visit localenterprise.ie/Donegal or call 07491 60735.
The groundbreaking series is back March 1st, exclusively on Disney+.
You have removed your helmet. You are a Mandalorian no more.
I'm going to Mandalore.
There's nothing left.
All right, kid, you ready for an adventure?
May the Force be with you!
Don't miss
This is the way.
The Mandalorian Season 3, streaming March 1st, exclusively on Disney+. 18+ subscription required. T's and C's apply.
Donegal Town Hardware is having a massive Doors and Floors 2-day sale event. Check out their brand new doors display with huge discounts on all floors, doors, handles, locks, architrave and skirting. That's the massive Doors and Floors sale event for 2 days only, this Friday the 3rd and Saturday the 4th of March at Donegal Town Hardware.
Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny are proud to announce that they're now stocking Riker footwear. Riker blend fashionable styles with incredible comfort, striking the perfect balance between fashion and practicality. All Riker shoes are made using unique anti-stress and anti-shock technology to provide the essential support and comfort the brand is known for. Try any of the new season Riker shoes now at Green Shoes, Market Square, Letterkenny.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect to 80 plus destinations worldwide, including Boston and New York. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
And looking at the weather forecast, Met Éireann tell us it'll be dry today with some decent sunny spells. Top temperature 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in light to moderate easterly or southeasterly breezes. Tonight generally dry with just a chance of some showers. Temperatures falling between -1 and +3 degrees Celsius. Coolest inland with some patches of frost expected. Winds very light and variable. Tomorrow, Tuesday, it'll be partly cloudy but stay generally dry in top temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in light northeasterly breezes. So that's how the weather is looking on this Monday. So I like those words. Dry with some decent sunny spells. By the way, if you're in West Donegal or around about the Fanad area or even close to Tory, I was looking at my Facebook page this morning and all I could see all over Facebook and social media was pictures of the Northern Lights. It seems there were amazing scenes of the Northern Lights, particularly around West Donegal and presumably up around the Fanad area as well. Some lovely shots I saw taken by Maria, a friend of mine, in Loch Salt, and some great shots taken by Trevor and by Lisa and by Carlin and others out in West Donegal as well, around about Gweedore and the Rosses. Really amazing. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on, but the Northern Lights, by all accounts last night, really looked phenomenal. Now, we said during the paper review that Falcarra Hospital is to get its upgrade. It's been awaiting that since last year. Part of the nursing unit is now effectively closed because the building isn't fit for purpose. Joined on the line by Councillor Michael McClafferty from the area. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal. Good morning, listeners.
Michael, good news from your point of view. Long awaited for this to be announced and to happen?
Great news, Donal. Long awaited, yes. Long awaited, obviously, for the community, the staff alike there, the manager and everything else in the home there. I think going forward it's going to be great when it is started and it gets finished there. As the article states there, going towards the end of the year, it should be completed as the plan, and hopefully that plan all carries through plain sailing this time, to be fair. But I think as well here, Donal, on the bigger picture as well, this is going to help a lot. You're going to have 20 plus beds and so on there, that patients are going to be able to get in there, both between temporary and respite and so on. That wasn't happening now this last number of years. And I think this will be a great asset as well to help the likes of Letterkenny Hospital or possibly elsewhere, or even indeed just people with loved ones at home that are struggling to manage on their own, alongside the home health and everything else.
And it is important for that reason. Yeah, it's important for that reason because, as we always know, that one of the biggest challenges that Letterkenny University Hospital and other hospitals are facing, and that was acknowledged by the Health Minister when he was on with Greg on the show some time ago, that one of the biggest challenges is actually discharging people and knowing that you can discharge someone from the acute hospital into an appropriate setting. And if they don't have the appropriate setting at home, then you're going to need some form of community respite setting, temporary bed in the community hospital, and the more they can be provided in places like Falcarra, that's the quicker people can leave Letterkenny University Hospital, and it's a win-win situation. It gets them closer to home, it gets them closer to their families, it gets them in a setting where hopefully they'll be more comfortable and their recovery will be better assisted, and it gives the hospital more scope to bring new people into acute beds to give them the treatment they need. So this could potentially be, and should potentially be, a win-win situation for all.
100%, Donal. Like as I say, when this is completed now, it should go in one situation, definitely a game changer, such total game changer for at least 20 odd patients, whoever they may be at the time, and that's all to be welcomed, because there at the moment Letterkenny Hospital is totally jammed up there at the minute. The staff are under pressure, the hospital's under pressure. There's big delays there I'm hearing in the last couple of weeks of getting the patients and so on. There's not enough staff there, just the facilities are not there to deal with everything. And it is, when you see the likes of us here now, I suppose, until this is opened again now towards the end of the year, start of 24, probably only then alone will we see the benefits of this type of situation here that Falcarra is going to experience now going forward. And indeed anywhere else, Donal, as well, similar type situations that are in there or thereabouts, sitting in the same kind of hovering pattern here. The HSE need to just do what they can, hurry up and get them sorted, because at the end of the day, we're here in Donegal. I know they always say we're the forgotten county, but we are the forgotten county, because all we're looking for, we're not looking for anything extra. We're only looking for a fair share and a fair slice of the cake. And what's happening here at the minute in Falcarra, all they're doing, they're getting their slice of the cake at the minute that they should have got long ago. I appreciate, okay, COVID did knock a lot of things on the head, and that certainly did disrupt things there, to be fair, and we all accept that. But COVID's what is... It's not gone away, but we're living alongside it, and I think just in general we need to move on forward and get things done where possible, and just stop the red tape stuff and everything else that seems to be cropping up from time to time. We don't need it. It's not welcome. We don't need it. For example, we're sitting here as well, almost, what is it? I think it's probably around 8 years now, speak at the minute here, Donal. So we spoke to yourself, I believe, before about it. The health centre in Kavanagh. We're still nowhere near hand on a health centre, primary care centre, built in Kavanagh. Again, whenever time, if and when this gets built in Kavanagh, that's going to be another game changer. But at the moment, sadly, we're sitting 8 years later. Just got an email there last day, a standard email there on Thursday it was there. Talks are ongoing. Talks are ongoing this last 8 years. Yeah. Talks are ongoing since the night that Dr. Stewart stood up on the hall in Kavanagh requesting help. I mean, talks are ongoing since that. It's no different to Falkirk home here. Talks are ongoing there too. How much talking do they need to do to get things, somebody to sign off and get things moving? And I think right across the board from Falkirk home, the primary care centre in Kavanagh, to get that hurried up, and hopefully, touch wood, hopefully it will come to pass eventually, although I'm sceptical at the minute the amount of time that it's taking. Letterkenny Hospital, we need to get things signed off and quicker, and the HSE need to realise that. And as well as that, the HSE need to listen as well, both to the patients, to the families, to the people on the ground, Donal. Take from them what's going on, hear the experience of what's going on. To be fair, no matter manager in the hospital or manager wherever, they can't be looking at everything 24/7. That's impossible. We all appreciate that. But when they can't do that, they need to be listening to the families. Even if there are suggestion boxes there outside the door in the ward, throw in your suggestions if you're not comfortable going talking to the manager. And as I said to Donna Marie there before, just when she was phoning back to go on with you two, Donal, I would appeal to people, appeal to families. I know it's difficult situations when you have somebody sick in the house at the moment or somebody sick in hospital, but I would say to them, please, if you're having bad experiences, as I'm hearing the last number of weeks, as my fellow colleagues are as well, and the fellow councillors are as well, at different times, please lift the phone, send a text, write a letter, send an email to yourselves there in Highland Radio or whatever, to get the word out, because until we get the word out, people's not going to know what's going on here, and when people don't know, nothing's going to change. And I think that's the big thing. We have to beat on the drums, bang on them drums, till we get Donegal up to scratch here in our health service.
Well, certainly when it comes to Falkirk, the government doesn't necessarily need to be told what the situation is by families, because HICWA, its own agency, the quality authority for the health service, has made it quite clear after its last inspection in Falkirk that the premises is not up to scratch and it needs to be upgraded. And we've seen plans published by the HSE to upgrade those areas. Indeed, we know part of the premises as it stands at the moment is now unusable and is sealed off because it can't be used. And that's been the situation now for the guts of a year and possibly more. So it isn't as though the government needs to be told by the families or by the councillors like yourself. The government has its own quality agency telling it exactly what the problem is.
Yeah, 100%, Donal, they have, yes. The likes of Falkirk, yes, okay, that's what happened there, but there is other things going on here through our health service at the minute that's not getting out there as such, and that's the things we need to get out there, because until everything's out there, until all the washing's out there, nothing's going to get sorted. For example, there's clearly, Donal, to be fair, many problems at the minute with Letterkenny Hospital there, whatever they may be. But look, I'm not picking on anybody here, but I'm just saying whatever they may be, and that's where you need the government then to step in. Step in there, for example, send in managers, see what's going on. If it's obviously money's clearly going to be an issue. Give them more money, give them the resources, give them more staff. Whatever is wrong, get it sorted, because there's clearly a breakdown in the system there, and clearly our health system is breaking down as such, and that's just the way I see it from my point of view, Donal, anyway at the moment.
And as you would argue, the health, you cannot sort of look at the health system and take one element of it in isolation. And maybe part of the problem is that we have a system which looks at individual projects, and you get funding for X, you get funding for Y, you get funding for Z, and X proceeds and Y doesn't, and Z is put on the long finger and A goes ahead. Whereas the actual truth is everything from A to Z is interconnected, and one development in one area impacts either positively or negatively on another, and sometimes you get the feeling you don't get joined up thinking. What you have is you have people thinking about hospitals, people thinking about GP practices, and people thinking about primary health centres, and sometimes they're in adjoining offices and it seems they're not talking.
Exactly, Donal. That seems to be the key here, and that seems to be the big problem I see a lot of the time and hear a lot of the time. It's just the joined up thinking is the problem here. And certainly, you say there, one office possibly not speaking to the other office, and indeed that is the case. I know that for a fact. I'll call a spade a spade. That's what actually is happening in some cases. And that's what needs to be ruled out going forward. Like, these things need to be clarified going forward. They need to get talking. They need to find a different model than what they have at the minute as such.
Yeah.
Because clearly there's a lot of things not just materialising as they should at the minute. To be fair about it. As I say, look, everybody in the health service, the workers and the frontliners, they are doing their best. But again, it's the management, it's the voice at the top of the government need to take a long, hard look at things here and just realise we need to get common sense going here.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, in some cases, that's not happening.
And certainly in terms of that hospital in Falcarra, once this work is done, it'll open up more space. It'll get 20 plus more people able to go to Falcarra for that vital care, be it respite care or be it in step-down beds from the acute hospital. I know certainly last week we were in the newsroom looking at latest figures from HICWA, and one of the hospitals covered in those was the community hospital in Kavanagh, which is due for some major works. And I noticed on its figures, the hospital, the actual number of people in the hospital at the time of the last inspection was about 20 less than its actual capacity. So hopefully, you know, if you could get 20 more people into Carn, get 20 more people into Falcarra, that's an extra 40. If you can get the long-awaited community hospital built in Letterkenny, just below the current Little Angels school site there, between Little Angels and St. Connell's, if you can get that community hospital up, you're talking close to 100 more beds, plus, you know, some of which will be respite and step down. So, you know, the more you can provide in the community, and then, as you say, if you can start looking at your health centres like the one, the long, and you're correct. I mean, I think the very first conversation we had was when you were campaigning about the dispensary in Dunfanaghy. That's the first conversation I recall having with you, and that was, as you say, quite a while ago. You know, if you can get those sorted, then they too will take the pressure off the acute hospital, and if you can take the pressure off the acute hospital, then hopefully that will mean the treatment and the experience in that hospital will improve, and it'll be to everybody's benefit. Councillor Michael McClafferty, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. We'll take this as a piece of good news for Falcarra, and hopefully that work will be progressed speedily. In the meantime, Michael, thanks very much indeed. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 midday. It's 1.5 minutes to 10. Going to take a short break. News and obituary notices with Michaela are next.
New trainers from your favourite brands at Brian McCormick Sports, Brooks, Asics, On Running and Hoka. New Hoka Clifton 9 has a wider toe box and it's softer, giving you that Hoka spongy feeling, making your run more responsive. Step into our safe size experience, have your feet measured and update your gait analysis. Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny. Look the part, play the part on bmcsports.ie.
Leis an app nua TFI Live ó iompar deireadh tá sé níos fusa ná riamh faisnéis fíor ama a fháil agus de thuras a flanol bhusanna, trénacha agus tramana TFI. Denhí an app TFI Live cócheangailt ar na hapanna Real-Time Ireland agus Journey Planner nach daco for loa hille an dar lás fihe de bhí feara. Is féidir leat clór ama chuirdach freisin na tuiris agus stadanna is fearr leat a hábháil agus eile. Is lódal an app TFI Live ar Android agus iPhone séar an aisce inniu. Bheadh ar transportforireland.ie.
What does the green economy mean for your business? How can you unlock your business digital potential? The Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment is holding a free Building Better Business event on Friday the 3rd of March at the Atlantic Technological University in Letterkenny. The event will highlight the opportunities, the challenges and the government supports that can help you navigate your green business journey and boost your business performance through digital transformation. Come along and build a better business. To register and to find out more, visit enterprise.gov.ie.
Change is happening in Letterkenny, and for the better. Letterkenny Medics is a new private clinic, opening soon offering private healthcare. Dr. Mohammed and Dr. Ripu welcome new patients to their clinic, conveniently located on the Port Road. Open 7 days per week from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. offering full medical checkups, including a full cardiac screening with echo, assessments of minor injuries, and the facility to complete minor surgeries without the long waiting times. To register, visit letterkennymedics.ie or call 085 867 5341. Letterkenny Medics. We listen if you want to talk.
Live, on air, online, and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Irish Government is hopeful a deal on the Northern Ireland Protocol can be reached this afternoon. Sources say there's a good chance of an agreement on the protocol later if the meetings in the UK go well. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen meet in Windsor at lunchtime. Former Taoiseach Mary Coughlan has called for a sense of respect to return to political life. Ms Coughlan told a recent See Her Elected event in Donegal that more support is needed for women to become involved at decision-making tables. Tara Dugan has more.
A See Her Elected event on Friday in Donegal town heard that a sense of respect needs to be brought back into political life. Mary Coughlan says we were able to get a woman to outer space before we could get a woman elected to the county councils in the northwest. Ms Coughlan says politics is changing and being from a political dynasty or political family was not necessary in today's society as politics was becoming more inclusive. She spoke about the need for women supporting each other and highlighted the importance of resilience and well-being for women in the political arena. The former Taoiseach says she feels respect needs to be brought back into political life. Respect for those who put their name forward, for those who are elected, and within the chamber for each other's point of view.
The Justice Minister is to face renewed pressure to set up a special task force to deal with violence against Gardaí today. Minister Simon Harris is to sit down with the Garda Representative Association later, following a spate of assaults against members of the force in recent months. Donegal-based Garda Brendan O'Connor is the GRA president. He says the increased danger is adding to the ongoing recruitment and retention crisis. He believes Minister Harris needs to take urgent steps.
Well, the first thing you can do is address the recruitment and retention crisis and get more members tested and out on the streets so that when guards are in trouble or when they're out working, there's enough of them there to provide a safe environment for those who are on duty, because as we see, unfortunately, the trend at the minute is downward in relation to numbers, and we seem to be struggling to meet government targets in relation to recruitment, and we also have the retention issue where we have experienced members exiting the organisation on the other side.
Donegal Deputy Thomas Pringle has warned there must be no delays in mother and baby homes redress decisions. In recent days, Deputy Pringle read statements from mother and baby home survivors into the Dáil record. He supported opposition amendments to the redress scheme for the survivors to limit time for the Chief Deciding Officer's decision making. Deputy Pringle says time cannot be wasted in putting the adequate legislation in place.
The as soon as practical words, when you see them in legislation, that just sends a chill down my spine, because I know that that's as soon as practical for people in the real world and as soon as practicable for people in the legislative world and in the world of government and dealing with it are two very different things. God knows all these people are known to the state and should be known to the state, and that's it, so there shouldn't be much deciding in terms of what's needed in relation to it.
Works to upgrade Fulcara Hospital is set to begin in the coming months. Part of the nursing unit is currently closed and respite admissions paused as the building is not fit for purpose. The upgrade is expected to be completed by the end of the year. Councillor Michael McClafferty says once fully operational, the hospital will provide relief for other areas such as Letterkenny University Hospital, which is under significant pressure.
The bigger picture as well, this is going to help a lot. 20 plus beds and so on there, that patients are going to be able to get in there both between temporary and respite and so on. It wasn't happening now this last number of years, and I think this will be a great asset as well to help the likes of Letterkenny Hospital or possibly elsewhere. Indeed, just people with loved ones at home that are struggling to manage on their own.
Small businesses in the Northwest are set to benefit from a new €5.4 million European Digital Innovation Hub. The hub is to be established to help SMEs apply cutting-edge technologies and digital skills to their businesses. It will support businesses over the next 3 years and offers expertise in research and development in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics and blockchain technologies. Weather now dry today with some sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, February the 27th. The death has taken place of Sheila Boyle, née Green, Fawns, Termon and formerly Glasgow. Remains will repose at her home from 3 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral mass on Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock. Cremation in Lakeland's Crematorium Cavan at 4 o'clock. Funeral mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 10 p.m. until 10 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of Barry Clerkin, 4 Wolfstone Place, Glencar, Letterkenny and Ballybuffet, Blackrock. Reposing at the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountaintop, Letterkenny from 2:30 until 5:30 today, concluding with removal to St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny for reception prayers at 6 o'clock. Reposing overnight for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass tomorrow morning, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Cremation in Lakeland's Crematorium Cavan. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu of wish to Brindley Manor Residents Comfort Fund, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of John Doherty, 35 Balmain, Carray Road, Carndonagh. Remains reposing at his home. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. Funeral mass will take place tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in the Sacred Heart Church, Carndonagh, followed by cremation in Lakeland's Crematorium Cavan at 4:30. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. John's funeral mass can be viewed live on carndonaghparish.com. The death has taken place of Bridget Bid Fletcher, née Friel, 124 Ard Patrick Glenties and formerly of West End, Buncrana. Removal from her late residence this morning, going to St Connell's Church, Glenties for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. And the death has occurred of Patrick Joseph McKelvey, Rushy Hill, Crossroads, Killygordon. Funeral leaving from his late residence this morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live on St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon YouTube channel. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, to the Oncology Ward, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Like to eat well all week at amazing Aldi prices? I like the sound of that. Feed your family for €5 with a delicious chicken casserole. And from February 2nd, enjoy Super 6 fresh meat offers, like specially selected Irish Angus steak mince 5% fat, now only $3.99. And try our Aldi Savers offers, like Mamiya mini size 2 nappies 60 pack, save 32%, now only $1.79. I don't like it, I love it. Aldi, every day amazing.
Welcome back to the second hour of the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio with Donal Kavanagh until 12 midday. Coming up in the next hour, we have a chat with an expert on how to see the Northern Lights, and a very appropriate one, as I said. We have a lot of pictures on social media across the Northwest this morning of people getting fantastic pictures of the Northern Lights. We'll be discussing that with someone from Astronomy Ireland. And by the way, if you have pictures that you wouldn't mind sharing with us here on Highland Radio, why not send your picture in to us? You can send it via Facebook or indeed WhatsApp to us on 086 60 25 000, and you can of course use that 086 60 25 000 number for your WhatsApp and text messages to us as well. You can also call us on 074 60 25 000. Donna Marie producing and taking your calls, and Anya taking calls out there as well. Also coming up in the next hour, everything you need to know about the menopause. If you have any questions, you can send them in to us here on Highland, as we say, either via text or WhatsApp, or indeed you can call us on 07491 25 000. If you're outside the dialing area, by the way, it's 00353 7491 25 000. Just a few more of your comments. The caller says, with regards to that crossing in Ballabafay, I think the crossing is in a good location. Before, you'd have had to walk down to McElhenny's to get across. I don't know why people are complaining. I've seen people for years walking halfway across the road and stopping before continuing on. At least now you just cross. Now, I think, caller, in fairness, no one is complaining about the crossing per se. I think the issue with the crossing is, number one, it isn't very well signposted, so a lot of people are kind of slightly confused as to what its status is. Is it a legal pedestrian crossing? Is it an optional crossing? Are people required to stop? Now, people should stop, obviously. If you see someone standing at a crossing waiting to cross the road, one would have thought common courtesy and manners would suggest you would stop. You don't have to be legally told to, but that is one question that people ask. The other question then is the question of lighting. It isn't the location. The issue isn't necessarily the location. The issue is basically how well is it lit, and do people who are on the road know the crossing is there. If you haven't got a warning sign and you haven't got good lighting, then people may very well be unaware there is a crossing there and suddenly stumble across it, and that is something you do not want to happen. Another caller says, with regards to the hospital in Falcara, caller expresses concern it'll be the same as Dunlow. It got a big renovation and the space was used for nothing except storage. Now, that does, of course, raise the next question. If you have something like a new extension to a hospital and the potential for new services, what you also need is the beds, the equipment, the staff, and the ancillary resources and supports to make sure that that space is filled. So it's one thing developing space. It's another thing, and we always say, you know, there's going to be 20 more beds, and sometimes it can sound like that means just going out and buying 20 more beds. But that also means 20 more support systems at each bed, 20 more oxygen connections, 20 more connections for various equipment that may be needed for monitoring or whatever, 20 more appropriate PowerPoints, 20 more areas that can be viewed easily by a nurse, and most importantly, adequate staff to ensure that the 20 extra patients are cared for in a safe, professional and appropriate setting. So it isn't just a matter of getting beds, it's a matter of getting all the ancillary equipment and supports and staff around those beds. So, you know, it's great to build an extension. That's not the end of the process, that's the start, and hopefully that will be recognised by all involved. Caller says, well done to the Termon Drama Group over the past 2 weeks at the Kilmacrennan Hall. 4 nights of pure laughter, just what people needed. Well done to all, and indeed hats off to all involved in that show in Termon. It's great to see that there's lots of smaller groups around the county that are putting on shows in small community halls in rural areas, and it is wonderful to see. I salute you, I take my hat off to you, and congratulations to all. Caller says, why can't people in Inishowen get x-rays in Carndonagh Hospital instead of Letterkenny? That is a very, very good question, and it's a discussion we've had here before, because, I mean, and I've said this on numerous occasions, and I'll say it again because it bears repeating. When the HSC was first inaugurated many years ago, and they had the very first meeting of the HSC West Regional Forum, as it was called at the time, that forum still exists today. Indeed, we have a Donegal chair at present, Councillor Jerry McMonagle. The very first meeting of that forum took place at Merlin Park in Galway, and I was at it. And it was addressed by the then Chief Executive of the HSC. Indeed, he was the first Chief Executive of the HSC, a man called Brendan Drum. And Brendan Drum said at the day that his priority and the HSC's priority was to get people out of acute hospitals and get them treated, assessed and diagnosed where possible in their own community setting. That is the whole point. When we talk about primary care centres in places like Newton Cunningham, and there's a very good primary care centre just opened there, the idea isn't just that the primary care centre is a brand new place for your GP to have their base. It's also a place where you should be able to go for your x-rays, you should be able to go for your tests, you should be able to go for, if you need certain treatments, you should be able to get them there rather than have to go into the hospital. And the idea is that you're keeping people out of the hospital as much as possible. And the more you can keep people out of the hospital, the more the hospital is then freed up for the people that need it. Now, you also have this situation, and I've told the story before, where several years ago I had a bad, I'm going right back to the 90s, I had a fairly bad bout of salmonella, and it required hospitalisation. And I went to my GP, and my GP took one look at me and said, you need to go to hospital. My GP made one phone call and then said to me, present yourself on, I think it was Medical 2. She said, present yourself at Medical 2 at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And I went into the hospital, I went up to Medical 2, I was in a bed, I'd say within 20 minutes. Because Medical 2 knew that Donal Kavanagh was coming, had a report from the GP, everything was there. I walked in, I was processed, I was in the bed, bang. 20 minutes from walking in the hospital door to being in a bed. Now everything is funneled through the emergency department. And there must be more effective, time effective and staff effective ways of doing it than that. 10:15, going to take a short break. Obviously, if you play Highland Radio, NCBI Radio Bingo, grab your books, grab your pens, because very shortly we'll be handing you over to Canis.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 27th of February. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S1. It's game number 9. The numbers are 30, 37, 10, 55, 4, 44, 60, 14, 1, and finally 46. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. And we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Are you tired of waiting for treatment or surgery? Did you know you can receive immediate treatment across the border under the new NI planned healthcare scheme at potentially no cost? Donegal patients are still being treated with us at Kingsbridge Private Hospital Northwest post-Brexit. The process is easy and our dedicated team will help guide you through it. So why wait? Contact us today to find out how you can skip the waiting lists and receive treatment in Northern Ireland. Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com, because life matters.
Do you have a stoma? Coloplast Ireland's free stoma review clinic comes to the Radisson Blue Hotel in Letterkenny on Tuesday the 28th of February. Registered stoma nurse Eileen Lim-June will review your stoma, access your requirements and offer any training or ongoing support you may require. For more information or to register for an appointment, call Coloplast on 019 190 190.
Forward Emphasis International, based in Mallinhead and Belfast, are actively recruiting for customer service advisors and experienced motor claims handlers with both in-office and hybrid opportunities available. Fully funded insurance and financial service qualifications delivering attractive career path opportunities are available. Please visit their website, forwardemphasis.ie, and apply via their careers page.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Donal Kavanagh with you on till 12 midday. As I said this morning, before going for a stroll, I was leafing through my Facebook page and I just saw friend upon friend upon friend in West Donegal and up in Fannet, basically anywhere along the Donegal coast that doesn't suffer from light pollution, posting some amazing photographs of the Northern Lights. And they were phenomenal photographs of the Northern Lights. And it seems that Donegal really got a spectacular show last night. I'm joined on the line by David Moore of Astronomy Ireland. David, good morning to you.
Good morning.
David, certainly we in Donegal have been getting some phenomenal views of the Northern Lights. Has that been shared across the country, or are we in a privileged position because of our geography?
Well, you're a little bit closer in Donegal, but it was seen as far south as Tipperary. And I'm delighted to say our Aurora Alert Service, completely free, did predict this yesterday afternoon. We told people to go out. We were sort of expecting it after midnight, but it arrived a few hours early, which was great because everybody was awake. And around about 10 o'clock, we started getting reports of people seeing it. And it really exploded into view before midnight with rays. I was watching it myself, shooting up halfway up the sky. A fantastic display. And we could get more because it's happening right now. We can see from satellite imagery that the aurora is extremely active right now. Hopefully this will last until sunset. The sky will get dark over Ireland and we'll be treated to more displays that we want people to send us their reports and photographs for Astronomy Ireland magazine.
I had the pleasure of visiting Tromsø in northern Norway last summer. I did a trip up the Arctic Circle with my better half, and we actually got to go to the Northern Lights Museum attached to the Science Museum in Tromsø. I'm sure it's a place you've been yourself. They have an international research centre there for the Aurora Borealis, and I was looking at sort of some of the pictures and some of the stuff they've got there, which was phenomenal. But I have to say, what I was seeing, pictures taken from West Donegal last night weren't far off the pictures I was seeing in Tromsø.
Yes, I've been lucky to be there a few times myself. We've run tours up to the north of Norway to watch the aurora, where you'll see it practically every night. And we'll be starting those tours again come this winter, because the sun goes through an 11-year cycle, and we're expecting the maximum activity 2025. And the aurora peaks usually a few years after the sunspot peak. So we're coming into sort of the next decade or so. It'll be a very good season to see them. And what people should remember is that the photographs are excellent, because the cameras can take exposures for several seconds, and that's more than the human eye can do. So what I saw initially was just a band of light low on the horizon. Couldn't see that it was green. You get your camera out, take a long exposure picture for a few seconds. Even camera phones can do that these days. And you see the band of green. You know it's not light pollution or something else going on. It's the aurora. And then when it got more active, you could, with the naked eye, see the rays shooting up. I counted 7 of them at one stage. They only last a few seconds. They're changing all the time. It's tricky to get a camera picture that will show the event, because you need to make several seconds exposure. And they've moved during that time. I remember in Norway seeing them even in a pair of binoculars, and you could see them moving in real time. So it's an incredible sight to see. I mean, the thing that struck me from my best tour ever, I think it was 2012, was that they say a total eclipse of the sun is the most spectacular sight in nature. We haven't had one of those in Ireland since 1724. And I've seen a couple myself around the world, but I have to say an angry aurora is even more impressive than a total eclipse of the sun. So we're hoping we're going to get that tonight. We only get in Ireland 1% of the time. Arctic Circle, you get it practically every night.
Yeah, well, I was in the Arctic Circle in June, so obviously we were in the land of the midnight sun. So you got a vague dusk between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. And actually, I was on the tour in the museum, and we did the planetarium as well, which is, if anyone's ever in Tromsø, the planetarium is the Extreme Aurora show is really spectacular. But I mean, there was people asking, will we see them tonight? And she was saying, well, they're there, but you won't see them. And that I suspect is the case in Ireland most of the time. They're there, but you just can't see them. But what is it about the current weather conditions then that means we can? Because we know Donegal at the best of times can be misty and murky and cloudy at night, and very often things that you get to see further down the country we don't get to see here, because almost inevitably what happens is we see Astronomy Ireland says there's going to be an amazing thing in the sky tonight, and Mid-Éireann say cloudy, and you can forget about it. What is it about the current weather conditions that makes it so much an optimum situation for the aurora?
In one word, luck. In Ireland, the weather forecast for astronomers is really simple. It's 2 words: mostly cloudy. It turns out on this island, about 3 out of 4 nights are cloudy. You see nothing. So we issue these aurora predictions all the time. We've had actually several seen in the last year. But you need somebody who's got a clear patch at the right time. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And as I said, in Ireland, usually it's just a small glow on the northern horizon. The island is so small, it doesn't really matter where you are. You hear a lot of reports in Donegal and the north coast, Northern Ireland, because you're looking out over the ocean there, so it's guaranteed to be no street lights in that direction. Yeah. So if any glow happens, it's almost certainly the aurora. But you could see it in Cork as well. Probably you'll have a few towns and cities. People often send us pictures, and they're nothing more than sports fixtures lighting up the clouds to people's north. And I think those conditions with the ocean have attracted a lot of photographers on the north coast, but also over on the west coast. Mayo juts out nicely into the Atlantic as well, so you get fantastic reports there. But we want people to send us their pictures for publication in Astronomy Ireland magazine. Don't send them all. Thousands of people took pictures. Just send your best one, and we'll try and put them into Astronomy Ireland magazine. It should happen again tonight. And do follow us on our social media, Twitter and Facebook especially. And when we predict them, we'll be able to get you ready for them, and then you just have to battle with the clouds after that. So, for instance, this one, on Friday night, Saturday morning, there was a huge explosion on the sun, and material was hurled at about 2 or 3 million miles an hour towards the Earth. That takes about 2 days to get here, so we knew it was coming. It's not an exact science. We can't predict exactly how strong it's going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes we predict it and nothing happens. Sometimes we don't predict it and we get an aurora. But it's fairly good now with all the space weather prediction satellites that we have, the professional astronomers run, where we can get a prediction like this. So I'd say at least 50% of the time we're right. We did expect a big one last night. I think the word we used was strong aurora in our prediction yesterday afternoon, and that's definitely what we got.
And there's a caller asking, is there any indication as to what would be the best time to see them tonight?
Well, it's actually happening right now. There are satellites that are monitoring the radiation in space, and they give us about a half an hour to an hour's prediction of what we should expect on the ground. That's really accurate.
Yeah.
And interpreting can be a bit tricky, but just follow Astronomy Ireland on social media.
Yeah.
Go to astronomy.ie. You'll see Facebook and Twitter symbols at the bottom. Definitely follow us there. We also predict other things. That Venus and Jupiter are getting extremely close this week. This aurora's come and stolen their thunder. And there's also a bit of a space chase happening in morning skies that we've been following as well, involving manned spacecraft. But everyone will focus on the aurora. We know it's happening right now. I can see clouds out my window, but above those, it's too bright to see it during daylight, but it's definitely happening. And if it just holds out, keeps going for a few more hours until we get the sun setting, the skies are dark, and hopefully it's clear. Looking at the satellite picture, check out met.ie, our friends in Met Éireann. You'll see that the west of Ireland is completely clear, and if that holds, they should get great views, but it could move across the country, who knows. And I tell people, just ignore the weather forecast anyway. All you need is a break in the clouds.
Yeah.
Keep checking the sky all night long. I stayed up till dawn just in case the clouds broke. It was lovely and clear early on, then clouded in. We know there was another big surge around 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's surging right now. So it's very exciting. Follow social media and just keep checking the northern sky.
David Moore, Astronomy Ireland, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. So the advice is go to astronomy.ie and you'll get all the latest there, and hopefully we'll all be able to get a glimpse of the Northern Lights tonight. Of course, David, presumably, I mean, you're going to have to get out of the big towns. I mean, I live in a housing estate on the outskirts of Letterkenny. I mean, I'm presuming I need to get out of there and get out into the countryside and away from the lights.
That's a good point. There's a strong moon up at the moment, and it was brightening the sky. So unless you're in the middle of a big town or city, actually being out in the countryside won't make that much difference. The suburbs will do. So a lot of people will have the right conditions. The one thing you really need is a good, clear view of the northern horizon. So you don't want trees or buildings in that particular direction. So you might have to go to a local park up a hill or something like that. But you can get out of a town or a city even better, even with the moonlight. You'll still get a slightly better view. But don't give up just because you're in suburban locations. And, you know, there'll be next issue of Astronomy Now magazine will be packed full of these pictures. I took over 1,000 last week.
Yeah.
And so people are welcome to join the club, follow us on the social media free, and just you'll see the magazine there on astronomy.ie if you want to see a report of all this if you missed it last night and nothing appears tonight.
David Moore, thank you very much indeed. So we got some great shots, as we said, of the Aurora Borealis last night, and hopefully more to come tonight. Just want to remind you that our Glasgow trip, which is going... is starting to fill up. We're down to our last 30 places for Glasgow. It's been a very popular trip with a continuous stream of bookings, a huge number of inquiries from people as well. If you want to secure your place, you can call us today on 074 9125,000. €100 per person, non-refundable deposit will hold your spot. Now, I know there are at this stage multiple buses going on that Glasgow trip, and we're down to the last 30 places. So if you want to do that trip, just get on it. And let's just take a look at what it actually involves. The trip goes in... it goes from the 1st to the 4th of May. You'll be staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel. You'll have music from, among others, David James, the Ryan Turner Band, Declan Nerney and guests, and Robert Mazel. Lots of others there as well. You'll have luxury coach transfers, return journey on the ferry. Your breakfast and dinner is included, 3 nights of musical entertainment, and it's all for a total of €575. Now, let's be honest, €575 is a steal when you're getting entertainment of that quality and accommodation of that quality as well. So get on it now. Last 30 places, and as the old ad says, when they're gone, they're gone.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Lancome's bonus time promotion is back at McElhenney's. Simply purchase 2 Lancome products, 1 to be skincare, to receive a free gift of 7 beauty essentials. Plus, when you purchase a 3rd Lancome product, receive a full-size bonus gift. Visit us in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com to enjoy this exclusive offer, available until March 11th.
We can all see how conflict affects energy supply and prices. More than ever, we need to be mindful of how we use energy. By reducing your use, you can save money and lessen the impact. Here's how. Only heat your home to the temperature you need. Use appliances efficiently. And where possible, outside the peak hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Consider walking, cycling, or public transport for short journeys. Drive at lower speeds where safe to do so. Government advice and supports are available for homes and businesses to help you meet this challenge. Find out more at gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
TFI Local Link operate over 1,300 door-to-door bus services nationwide. If you live on or near one of the routes, just pre-book the day before you travel. Simple. Then off you pop from your front door, off to the shops, off to training, or even off to the chipper. And fares now cost 20% less. Find the door-to-door bus routes in your area on transportforireland.ie. If you're on our route, we're on our way. TFI Local Link is part of the Transport for Ireland network.
Keep your car or van running smoothly with a service at Hegarty's Ford in Letterkenny. Not only will it minimise the risk of a major repair expense, but it will be logged in your vehicle's service handbook and help its resale value. Hegarty's also offer everything from new and pre-owned car sales to parts and body repairs in their approved body shop. Book a service online this month and save €30 when you use the code FORD30. You're always in good hands at Hegarty's Ford, Carnamugga, Letterkenny. See Hegartys.com.
Earlier in the show, we were talking about age, and I was joking about the fact that I knew what Paul McCartney's Frog Chorus was, and my production team, who are all considerably younger than me, didn't have a clue what I was on about. And age brings with it a number of challenges, and it brings with it a number of benefits. And when you're of an age, and particularly if you're a woman, then you potentially are facing the menopause. And when you're facing that, it brings up a whole raft of questions that many people have. As we said at the top of this hour, we do have an expert on menopause joining us to discuss the issue. Catherine O'Keefe is the author of a new book, All You Need to Know About Menopause, and Catherine joins us on Zoom. Catherine, good morning.
Hi, Donal. How are you? Thanks for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. One thing I want to say is I'm a married man, and I'm in my 50s, as is my beloved. And I have had this conversation both with her and with her sister. And what I will say is, I'm not going to go into anyone's personal details, but I will say is both of them had very different experiences.
Yeah,
very different experiences. Now, they're two women who are of the same parents, grew up in the same family, had the same upbringing and well, they obviously things diverged when they were in their 20s. But you know, two people, same genetic makeup, but two very different experiences once they hit that age. Is that typical?
Yeah, I always say no two women will have the same experience of menopause, and I think that, just like as you explained there within your own family, that is what makes it so unique. And that's what, Donal, makes the whole empowerment and knowledge around menopause so important, because what could work for me versus what might work for your beloved or, you know, your sister-in-law is going to be completely different. So it's really important that we are very respectful around the conversation around menopause, and that we empower and support women with information, and at the same time realizing that, look, what can work for one may not work for the other. And that was one of the underpinnings of my book, really, was to try and get as much information out there as possible, but also make sure that we're being respectful of the variation of experiences that we see. For example, like in my own situation, I'm 52 now, Donal. I'm still going through perimenopause. I haven't finished yet. And I haven't yet had a hot flush. Now, I have had anxiety. I've had loads of brain fog. So there's so many symptoms that many of us won't have. And it's going to be very individual in the experience. And, that is why it's so important for every woman and every partner and family to really understand that it's not going to be the same for everybody.
And this is one of the problems, because I think sometimes we as men are guilty, because we have an idea in our minds of what something is, and it's nicely compartmentalized, and it's menopause. I know what menopause is. It's this, and here's my nice handy 2-3 line explanation. Put a full stop on it, file it away, and what's this? No, you're wrong. It can't be like that, because my understanding is what no, it's completely different to that. And we have expectations sometimes as men that we completely and utterly fail to appreciate how far off the mark we are.
I so love that. And Donal, can I read you 2 lines from the book? Mm-hmm. So there was a lovely man, Pat. I wrote a chapter for partners because, just like you said, I wanted partners to really understand how complex, how deep menopause is. So I'll just read this for you. One thing I've learned about menopause is that you can't fix it, and your relationship shifts or changes its dynamic. When my wife talks about menopause, I used to jump into what can I do mode, how can I fix it? Now I know it's all about listening and having my ears open. Making the cup of tea at nighttime goes down very well too. Throughout the book, I include stories from people, but particularly from partners. It's so important in terms of understanding menopause is way more than hot flushes. It's way more than night sweats. There's a lot that happens on the psychological and emotional level, and the majority of women will say that's where they struggle the most. That in the early perimenopause years, which can start from 45 onwards, many women don't expect this anxiety that comes out of the corner. And it's like, what's that about? So it's really just making sure that women understand, what does perimenopause look like? What does menopause look like? So that you're armed with the information, so that then you don't fear this inevitable natural stage in your life. And really that we flip it so that we actually think, okay, look, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to tackle it head on. I know what my choices are. This will work for me. And you try different things, etc. And that, I'm seeing now, Donal, a lot of fear and overwhelm around menopause. And I think that's what I'm trying to kind of say, look, let's just calm it all down and understand there's loads of treatment options. There's loads of lifestyle aspects that come into play here. It's all about just having trusted sources that you can go to and actually get the right information. And that's what the book is all about, evidence-based information in relation to supporting.
And presumably part of that process is the fact that if people have expectations and those expectations aren't met, or the experience is different, the next sort of thing a lot of people will do is they'll go, oh, there is something wrong with my experience, when the actual reality is there is nothing wrong with anyone's experience, and it's not wrong, it's different. But if we go into something, I say we, if women go into this with fixed expectations, they're on a hiding to nothing on that one.
Yes, big time. And one thing that I see, I would hear a lot from women. So we know that 1 in 4 women will go through menopause with no symptoms, or they're so mild they don't even realise. But you know what they're now beginning to say? I'm getting emails and phone calls, and women are saying to me, oh, Catherine, I'm here wondering what's wrong with me because I don't have symptoms. And I'm like, you're fine. It's not everyone is going to have the symptoms. So it's really, once you have the knowledge that you know what the symptoms could be, it all of a sudden puts you on a different trajectory, Donal. And the other thing is, you'll be thinking, menopause, I know what'll happen. That's fine. I know what my options are. And it takes away the fear. I mean, ideally, we do want it to be brought into the SPHE classes in secondary school so that the education starts there, because the one thing about menopause, like you will know in your own home situation, it doesn't just impact the person going through it. It impacts everyone you touch off of, whether that's at work, whether it's at home, your family, your friends, etc. So shattering the taboo of menopause is imperative in us supporting women to be empowered so that they can actually thrive through these years and understand that they don't have to suffer in silence ever. There's no need for that anymore.
The other thing is people will start anticipating. We have a message in asking, when can I expect to experience menopause? I'm now in my 40s. I want to be prepared for when the symptoms may start.
Yeah, and I love that, because you know what? If you start preparing beforehand, Donal, you make your experience so much more positive. The average age of perimenopause starts at around 45. Now, I started 44 myself. I would kind of say, you know, from your early 40s, have a good understanding of what does perimenopause look like. So that means when you start to see any of those little changes creeping in and there isn't, you know, another reason for it, that then you might start to think, okay, well, things are starting to move, which means that your hormones are basically starting to decline and fluctuate, and until they eventually settle. Now, I was talking to a lovely man last week who was telling me that he thought menopause lasted 3 weeks. No. It actually, that whole period from perimenopause into menopause, like there's years in that. And menopause itself is really, it's like a birthday, an anniversary. It's 12 months without a period. So, but the perimenopause years is where it's like, you know, the ground starts to unsettle. You know, there's ripples in the water until it becomes more obvious, if it's going to become more obvious. And it's really important to remember that that's not the case for everyone. And what I also cover in the book is the fact that you may not have symptoms, but what should you be doing to protect yourself in these years? Like looking at your bone health, your brain health, your heart health. So I always think about menopause, the menopause years, that they also offer a window of opportunity, because we can start to think about, okay, well, I'm taking a pause here. How can I now start to think about looking after my health, not for just the menopause years, but for my 70s, 80s and 90s?
Caller asks, how does one know when they're going through the menopause if they don't have any symptoms?
If they don't have any symptoms, the only way you can confirm that you've hit menopause is you go to your doctor, and your doctor will take a blood test, and the FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone, that level goes really high, and that basically confirms to your doctor that you have at some point hit menopause. So that's the real confirmation. But as to if something's going on, you're always looking at the symptoms. But if you're not having symptoms, then you're one of the lucky 20%.
But presumably there'll be disruptions to the menstrual cycle. And I mean, if someone is regularly menstruating as they always would have done, then presumably they're not in menopause. If that cycle is disrupted or has stopped, then that's obviously going to be the first hint.
Yeah, well, it's the first. I always kind of say the first thing to look at is how are you? How are you feeling? Because the cycles aren't necessarily the very first thing to start. But if you've no other symptoms, what will happen at some point is they'll start becoming very sporadic. They'll be a few weeks apart, a few months, and then until eventually they stop altogether. And when you've gone 12 months without a cycle, then you know you've hit menopause and you're into post-menopause, which isn't a defined chapter. Many people think it is. It's the rest of your life. And the symptoms, if you're having them, you can still have them after you hit menopause. But, you know, if you're not getting symptoms, then fantastic. And, you know, so many women don't. So it's important that we keep that as a very relevant part of the conversation.
Just very conscious I used the word obviously there as though I have a clue. So please feel free to absolutely pull me back, because there is nothing worse than a man who thinks he knows what he's talking about on issues like this. So, I mean, you know, if I start talking rot, do please pull me back, Catherine. Absolutely. A caller is asking about hormone therapy and asking, you know, should I consider hormone therapy? Should I take natural supplements to treat my symptoms? Or is it going to be different for everyone?
Oh, I love that. I did an Instagram on Friday, I think it was, or Saturday morning, Donal. Oh my God, it just went viral. Because I was basically saying just that we've got to be very mindful of the fact there's many different treatment options in menopause, and it depends on your individual situation. I think one very easy way to look at it is, are your symptoms mild, moderate, or severe. If they're mild, then certainly you should be, rolling up your sleeves, looking at the lifestyle aspects that you can put together. I always say, take it a symptom at a time. So, like, for example, if sleep is an issue, well, focus on sleep, get that right. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do too much at one time. So look at the severity of the symptoms and how much they're impacting your life. If your symptoms are severe and they're impacting your life, then you definitely want to go and have a conversation with your doctor and discuss your options. Now, you have medical options and you've non-medical options as well, like the complementary therapies have a great role to play, particularly acupuncture, the use of herbs, which is very common. But again, you've got to take into account the severity of the symptoms and how it's impacting your life. So it is never one size fits all. And it's very much looking at from an individual perspective. The most common question I'm asked, Donal, is what are most people doing? Most women doing? And I can tell you, most women, are doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
It can be someone's doing acupuncture, they may be on HRT, they may not be on HRT, or they may be simply doing other forms of medication or lifestyle. So it's very mixed, and that's what the book delves into, because it gives you the options. If your symptoms are mild, well, there's loads of practical steps you can take. And again, if you need to look down the medication route, there's a very detailed chapter on HRT, hormone replacement therapy. But the whole thing is it's not for everyone, just like acupuncture isn't going to be for everyone. So it's just very, very individual and personal.
Now, the book is called All You Need to Know About Menopause by Catherine O'Keefe, Ireland's menopause expert. And it's an important one, Catherine. It was published earlier this month. And important, that women can read this book and just get themselves, in the right headspace, perhaps, to deal with their own situation. Just a couple of comments that have come in. One caller says, I spent a fortune on pregnancy tests during perimenopause. Sort of thing, I also...
Me too, Donal. Yeah. Me too.
I also, actually, I once did hear the opposite story where a lady whom I know was in her, shall we say, mid-40s, assumed she was going through menopause. Let's just say she wasn't.
Okay.
Quite the opposite. There was a little bit of a surprise a bit later on when she went to the doctor to get tested. What the doctor actually told her was not what she was expecting. And I'm sure that happens too.
It does happen, and because the cycles start becoming erratic, you're like, oh God, maybe I'm feeling a bit nausea, maybe I have a headache, and you're nearly convinced yourself that I'm pregnant. Yeah. I've certainly done tons of pregnancy tests myself when I was in the perimenopause years.
Yeah. I mean, a caller asking, is it typical to start menopause at 42? I feel like I'm getting the symptoms. I thought I would be older.
Okay. Yes, the average age would be around, 45. Now, what I would say there, if you feel like you're getting the symptoms at 42, depending on what they are, the very first thing that I would want to rule out is I'd want to look at your thyroid and also your iron levels. So it could be speak to your doctor and get a blood test done, because the symptoms of a thyroid imbalance, particularly if you're hypothyroid, they actually look very similar to the symptoms of perimenopause. And the same can be said for low iron. Low iron, you get palpitations, you miss your periods, you can get panic attacks, you can have tiredness. So there's a lot of crossover. So certainly at 42, you want to rule out that there isn't anything else going on. So your doctor would definitely help you with that.
Yeah, I seem to recall an ad featuring Lorraine Keane some time ago where she was speaking about going into perimenopause in her 30s.
Yeah, you can. So there's earlier forms of menopause, and the youngest woman I've ever met, Donal, started when she was in 3rd class in primary school. She was 9 years of age. So that's a more unique form of menopause. But early menopause is really when it's going to happen, before 40. And again, we don't have statistics in Ireland, but I will say to you, from what I'm seeing, I definitely think it's on the increase.
Again, another caller asking, are you likely to conceive while entering menopause? My cycle is so erratic. I have so much anxiety that I'm pregnant. I've entered the menopause quite young. I mean, again, that same question coming up again and again.
Yeah, it's because your periods become erratic, and then you might be having other symptoms like the anxiety and so forth, and you don't know, is it am I pregnant or is it hormonal? So many women will do pregnancy tests as they go through menopause. Certainly if you feel that you have many of the symptoms, like the more common symptoms like urinary issues, hot flushes, brain fog, etc., then I would certainly say talk to your doctor, because depending on your age, it's whether have you hit it already,
Yeah. Caller asks, and this is an interesting practical question. If I enter menopause, should I get my contraception removed? I have an IUD.
Okay, yeah, now that's a really good one, because if you have like the Mirena coil, that is actually giving you a steady supply of progesterone. The main hormones we talk about in menopause are estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. So that's actually probably giving you a little bit of support towards menopause. So it's really personal. I mean, depending on how long you've had the Mirena coil in, then it can be replaced every 5 years, and then as you get older, it's 7 years. But certainly there's nothing to say you need to take it out. But that's really, have a conversation with your doctor and discuss it. But it is probably helping you though.
And there is a related question. I mean, and a caller asking, how would I know when I've hit menopause? I have the coil in and never have periods anyway as a result.
Yeah. What will happen there, what generally tends to happen, now again, you could be one of the lucky who don't get symptoms. But what generally does tend to happen is that as you get closer to menopause, the more estrogen-like symptoms start to come forward. So you might start the hot flushes, the night sweats. You might have internal vaginal dryness. Different things like that might start to come into play. So it's really just, again, it's just being aware of the symptoms and watching what's happening in your body.
Again, caller says, I've been suffering from restless nights and interrupted sleep. Is this normal? I suspect from your nodding, the answer is yes.
It is. And Donal, I always say, like, if you can get sleep right, you can really start to work on changing, the symptoms that you're experiencing during menopause. To me, I always say sleep is the bedrock of thriving through menopause. If you get sleep right, because it impacts all of us, right? That's why it's a form of torture to be sleep deprived. So it is very common. It's one of the most common symptoms that women will experience. And what I would say to your listener there is, I would definitely say, if it's restless sleep, you could certainly look at something like magnesium, but also just, take into account what your sleep habits are at nighttime and prioritize good, deep restorative sleep. On my website, I have tons of blogs and interviews on sleep, because it's such a big subject, and it's probably one of the bigger chapters in the book, because it's so important.
Now, caller says finding comprehensive care in Donegal feels impossible. Any suggestions? I mean, obviously your GP is going to be your first port of call, and maybe reading your book might be another way of just getting the head in the right place, and then maybe the person will find that they don't necessarily need medical intervention as much as just to know what their own particular individual pathway is.
Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely say grab a copy of the book. I would, for sure, because it will give you all the options. Now, there isn't any specialist menopause clinics in Donegal at the moment. The nearest probably to you is Galway, I think, is probably the nearest. But what I would say, though, is get informed and look at what your options are. And I am a huge believer, Donal. I know we do have a lot of work to do in relation to educating our GPs, but I'm a huge believer in relation to community care. And I do, I really want the day to come that every woman can just walk down to their local doctor and get the right standard of care. The government are working on that. We know we've got a way to go, but certainly, there are some fantastic doctors up in Donegal. So I think it's just trying to find a doctor who has a special interest in women's health. And at the same time, if you read the book and you read the treatment options, you'd go into that appointment and you'd be very informed, which changes the whole experience.
Catherine, it's been a pleasure. All you need to know about menopause is the name of the book, published by O'Brien Press, available, as they say, in all bookshops. And it's a vital read for women who find themselves in that situation, and maybe a vital read for their partners as well, so they can try to navigate the situation that they're in. Catherine, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Donal. Take care.
Join All Folked Up live at the Abbey Hotel, Donegal, this Saturday, the 4th of March. That's All Folked Up live at the Abbey Hotel, Donegal, this Saturday, March the 4th. Tickets available from Eventbrite.
The Lidl Baby event is back, and you won't want to miss these great offers, like our new organic baby snacks from only $1.89, as voted by you, Ireland's favourite award-winning Loopy Loo nappies from $1.39. Keep them safe as houses with our quick close baby gate, only $24.99. And there's so much more. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas, Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. From March 26th, Aer Lingus will operate a daily service to London Heathrow, providing onward connections to 80+ destinations worldwide. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Donal Kavanagh with you, as we say, on till 12 noon today. Caller said, I had a total hysterectomy at 48. Menopause was terrible for years. Another caller says, I know an old lady who only started getting hot flushes when she was 70. The hot flushes, I could hardly breathe and I had broken sleep, says another caller. And I mean, as Catherine said there, the experience of menopause is going to be different for everybody. And I think there is no right and there is no wrong here. So it isn't a matter of, you know, I'm wrong, or there is something wrong with me because this is happening or this isn't happening, or, you know, everyone's experience is going to be different, I think, when it comes to menopause. And, you know, it's, you know, something that women will experience. And, you know, maybe if you read Catherine's book and just the more you learn about something like that, I think maybe the better situation you'll find yourself in and the easier you'll be able to actually deal with the situation you're in. Just remember from what Catherine was saying, there is no right experience, there is no wrong experience. Everyone is going to have a different experience. And sometimes it can be iffy, I think, when two people are sitting down and they're having a conversation because, you know, person one will have one set of symptoms and one set of experience, and person two will have a completely different one. And, you know, one may believe, and the reality is there is, you know, just the experience is going to be different, and it doesn't mean there is something wrong. It doesn't mean that you're somehow strange or different. You're not. A caller has been in touch with us, lost a gold earring with a diamond inset in Derry between 3 and 5 on Saturday. It was a birthday present, and the earring was made specifically for this caller made for her by her parents, or ordered by her parents. So it's of obviously high sentimental value. It's a lost gold hooked earring with a diamond inset, lost in Derry between 3 and 5 on Saturday. If anyone can help, please do get in touch. I'll put that to one side. Happy birthday. A few birthday requests coming in. Happy birthday to Bridget Kearns in Rafo. That comes from daughter Rosemary, son-in-law Liam and grandson Adams. And also happy birthday to Sarah Clark. And that comes from Catherine, Sean, Anne-Marie and Murren McBride. A very happy birthday indeed to you, Sarah. Caller's been in touch to say another scam warning. What looks like a UK number called, trying to sell stock and get our caller involved in the stock market. He was asking the caller what they do, what type of phone they use, what type of bank account they use, and was being very pushy. It seemed like he was trying to keep me on the line for some reason, asking questions that were irrelevant. Red flags all the way, and in a situation like that, I think you're absolutely right to hang up. If in doubt, I will always say it, if it's a strange number and if you're in doubt, do not engage. And as often as not, I will not answer my phone if I do not know who that caller is. We were speaking earlier to Aidan about his experience with bus Éireann and one particular route in Donegal where the bus is consistently late, and his son has Asperger's and has difficulties waiting in crowds and waiting for buses, and has difficulties with uncertainty, and was looking like they were going to have to actually give up on their training courses as a result of issues with the bus. Another caller has been on to say, look, there is always a problem with buses, particularly in the evenings, and I am tired tired of asking questions about it. It's approaching a minute to 11. We're going to take a short break. News headlines with Michaela after these.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like selected Fairy Pods 38 wash and Velvet Quilted 24 roll, any 2 for €16. Exclusive to Real Rewards members only. And 3. Money off vouchers every week. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value.
Your next move matters, so why not move better? Start your move to permanent TSB today. Apply in-app for our award-winning current account. So don't just move bank, move better. Apply in-app today. Applications for Explore Current Account in-app for over 18 personal customers. Qualifying criteria, fees and charges, terms and conditions apply. Awarded bonkers.ie Best Current Account 2022. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
When you need help with natural gas or LPG appliances or pipes, don't take any chances. Stay safe and always use a registered gas installer for installation, servicing, repair or removal. Otherwise you're putting yourself and others at risk and breaking the law. Find a registered gas installer at rgi.ie.
ATU Donegal's Open Day takes place on Saturday 4th of March from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Letterkenny campus. If you're a Leaving Certificate student, a mature student, a parent or guardian, thinking on a postgraduate degree or interested in upskilling or reskilling, then come along and discover all that ATU has to offer. Special guest on the day, Donal O'Mahony, will give a talk on Leaving Certificate guidance and study tips. Bring the family along and enjoy fun, games, music and a complimentary burger bar on the day. Saturday 4th of March, don't miss it. See ATU Donegal socials to register.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's 11 o'clock. Time for news headlines. Good morning, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. A final agreement on the Northern Ireland Protocol could be announced by the end of the day. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is in London today to iron out the final details of a post-Brexit agreement with the UK. There's concern among unionists the North could become further detached from the UK if EU trade rules are maintained to avoid a hard border. Former Taoiseach Mary Coughlin has called for a sense of respect to return to political life. Ms Coughlin told a recent See Her Elected event in Donegal that more support is needed for women to become involved at decision-making tables. The maximum sentence for people who assault emergency workers could be increased to 12 years. Justice Minister Simon Harris is set to bring the new proposals before government shortly. Representative bodies have been calling for tougher measures to deter people from attacking the likes of Gardaí, paramedics and hospital staff. Over €19 million is being invested in the northern and western region with the launch of 2 new funding programmes aimed at supporting innovators and researchers. The Innovators Initiative is designed to develop 5 immersive needs-led innovation training programmes, while KT Boost is a 4-year knowledge transfer programme focused on increasing research commercialisation outcomes in Irish universities and technological universities. Meanwhile, small businesses in the northwest are set to benefit from a new €5.4 million European Digital Innovation Hub. The hub is to be established to help SMEs apply cutting-edge technologies and digital skills to their business. Works to upgrade Falcara Hospital are set to begin in the coming months. Part of the nursing unit is currently closed and respite admissions paused as the building is not fit for purpose. The upgrade is expected to be completed by the end of the year. And 53 vacant pubs across the country will be developed for housing. Figures from the Department of Housing show they will provide a total of 169 homes. In Donegal, 3 pubs are to be converted into 5 houses. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Warner Brothers have landed a McDonald's Happy Meal. Mix your favourite characters like Batman and Scooby-Doo and ignite your imagination. And now get a free World Book Day token with every Happy Meal. Some fun, some food. It's all inside this Happy Meal. Until the 21st of March from 11 a.m. while stocks last. Token valid 16th of February to the 26th of March. Terms apply.
It seems like only about half an hour ago that I was saying good morning and welcome to the show, but now I'm saying welcome to the final hour of the 9 till noon show on this Monday morning. And as it's a Monday morning, it means it's time to preview tonight's DL debate. I don't have the pleasure of Brendan Devaney in studio with me this morning, but I do have the next best thing. Brendan joins me on Zoom. Brendan, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Brendan, honours shared between Donegal and Galway in O'Donnell Park yesterday. Very much, it seems, it was a game of two halves.
Yeah, Donal, I suppose, we can look at it a few ways. The home venue, I think, definitely helped us. In the latter stages, I think, when we had to dig deep. But certainly in the first half, when we went 5 up after Gallon's penalty, it was probably looking as a possible one for us. But unfortunately, we conceded a goal a minute later. That's probably where the game swung in terms of us only taking a point out of it. But listen, I thought our defence, which was under pressure the last few weeks, coped admirably, man for man. They're all getting better as each game goes on, which was a positive to take out of the game. We were quite wasteful in front of goals, which is unlike us. So Galway was coming with a bit of a reputation, particularly after how they beat Tyrone last week. I know they were missing players though, but all in all, listen, we can look the ways we could have possibly won the game, but in the end, probably the fact that they had a late chance to win it and we survived with a point, it could be vital. Certain teams around us struggling, the more in our good neighbours Tyrone as well. So listen, we still have a fighting chance, and I suppose that's all we can hope for.
And I suppose really 2023 was always going to be a season of transition and a season of change for Donegal. There's a new management team bedding in, there's some new players bedding in, and of course it's now the first year of the post-Michael Murphy era. It was always going to be tough to get through 2023, and this is the year that we're going to learn perhaps more than we've learned in the past couple of years with regards to Donegal football.
Yeah, Donal, there was certainly a period of transition coming for us, and I think no matter who took over the team and what was happening, we obviously the protracted management situation, and then we've had the issues with the academy lately, and there seems to be a lot of, I suppose, almost consternation in the background around what's happened with the team. The Monaghan second half against Monaghan the other week left a lot of head scratching. So that's why people like Mark Curran, McCall, McColgan, all these lads, not household names, I suppose, in Donegal terms this last, really stepping up this season and making their mark. And it's at the back, we've had to tighten up, but we did that yesterday. I mean, it was low scoring game, but you'd have to say our defence did their job. It's the other end of the pitch, which we're normally more efficient that we didn't. But certainly it's been a difficult time for Donegal, and we're just looking, I suppose, if we could stay in the division, Donal, is a huge thing first, and sort things out, I suppose, with our academy and get on the right foot again, because at the minute, Donal, there seem to be a lot of messages out there for a long time with our GA, where things is at and what's happening. It certainly wasn't a good news story. So I think if we could survive in the division, be number one and build into the championship, because most of our team are young in age, so it is like a new team, as you say. It is a transition, so there's always going to be a few stumbling blocks and learning processes in there, but I certainly think there seems to be a good vibe between the lads. And like I spoke to Patrick McBurty after the game, his interview will be in there too, and that's another, as I say, the bad news was coming, and that was part of it. I say Patrick's injury, our captain and our main man inside. So listen, we hope we wish him a speedy recovery too.
Absolutely. Not the best of days for the Donegal ladies. They took the long journey down to Cork, and defeat there for them. And I suppose no more than the men. When we talk about transition, we talk about change. It's a tough time for them at the moment.
Yeah, it is, Donal, certainly, and there's only one team gets relegated from that division. So, it seems, even though we've lost 5 in a row like that, there still is a chance we could technically claw out of it. But yeah, and no more maybe than our men. Maxi, not that there's the same level of interchange, but there was a lot of our star players being rested. He's tried a load of new blood to I suppose, re-energise the squad a bit. So Donegal will be better come the championship. They'll have a more experienced side out. But for now, he'll certainly find the going tough in the top flight.
Guests on the DL debate tonight: John Harron, St Eunan's chairman. You've got Irish News columnist Ciara O'Kane, also speaking, as you said, to Patrick McBurty, and also speaking this week to Dr. James McDade, who had something of a singular honour at the weekend.
Yeah, great to catch up with Jimmy, and we had a big, you can probably hear in my voice, Donal, it was a bit of a late night. it went on a bit. Listen, as the music gets louder, you're shouting even louder. So I hope the voice comes back for the show tonight. All right, but yeah, great fun out the park. I mean, what a day it was, Donal. I mean, we got up yesterday and the sun was shining, and it was one of those really beautiful spring days, and big crowd at the park. And Jimmy's reception, I just looked at a wee video I had on the phone of him coming down. You know, the warmth of applause and that, and you know, I interviewed him. I said, you know, everything he's done, you know, as a doctor, first of all, there Kennedy and a TD, and became a minister, and he helped so many sports clubs around the county in that time, and I think he received some of that warmth back. And of course, unions. He had so many roles in unions over the years. You know, such a man he was about the club. So the warmth of it, as I say, coming down, got a wee bit emotional as he was coming down to cut the ribbon. It was a real nice moment for him, and some huge history there for him. So it was nice for the club to honour him with the naming of the Dr. McDaid stand.
And indeed, that's a legacy that will live on, and I'm sure that conversation that's going to be on the programme tonight, Brendan, will be, as you said, it's an emotional one, but also one that's going to be filled with history, because Jim McDaid, no doubt, has many stories to tell, and I'm sure he's shared several of them with you for this one.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we caught up. It was just after the game. So listen, he was getting pulled pillar to post at that time, and there was a raucous Galway crew in there, actually, Donal, and the crack was great. My mum's from Galway, so there was a lot of crack. There was a good few guys from Tuam and Mount Bellew and that were have big connections. So listen, it was a brilliant evening. Now we all had the Sister Sarah's then, and the fun continued, as the man says. But yeah, it was a great day, and a great crew out supporting Dr. McDaid, and well deserved.
Excellent. Well, Sister Sarah is obviously the sponsors of the DL Debate, and DL Debate live on Highland Radio tonight just after the 7 o'clock news. It looks like it's going to be a good one. In the meantime, Brendan, thanks very much indeed.
Cheers, Donal.
Thank you, Brendan. That's Brendan Devaney there, the presenter of the DL Debate. And as we say, the DL Debate will be on just after the news tonight at 7 o'clock. And that'll be live. As we said, the guests will be John Harron, who's the chair of St. Eunice, Irish News, GAA columnist Ciara O'Kane, also Donegal captain Patrick McBrearty on the programme. And as well as that, we will have that interview with Donegal, former Donegal TD and Minister Dr. James McDaid, after whom the stand in O'Donnell Park was formally named yesterday. Looking at some of the comments coming in, caller says, I keep getting calls from a tax company. I tried to sort rebates with them. I've emailed to cut off services, but they won't stop calling. Any ideas? Now that is an interesting one, because I mean, there are some of these companies who will sort of offer to do this for you, and I suppose they are private commercial companies who are making money, and as soon as you give them your call, you're on their database and they're touting for more business. I don't know. I mean, you know, if there's as you say, you've emailed in a bid to cut off the services, I suppose basically maybe block the number if you feel you wish to do that. I can't personally offer any more perspective on it than that. Now, we spoke earlier on about the fact that there are roadworks on the Four-Lane, and the Four-Lane is that road that connects basically the Dry Arch and Polestar roundabouts on the outskirts of Letterkenny. Now, Kevin is on line one, and Kevin wants to raise an issue with regards to the area around the Dry Arch itself. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Kevin, the Dry Arch, we have on the one side of the road, we have a very busy petrol station, shop, we have a bar, and we have a number of services going down the side of the road there at Bonagee. On the other side of the road, we have a very big hotel. There's very often a constant stream of people trying to get from one side of the road to the other. It's a four-lane road, it's a busy road. Pedestrians are taking their lives into their hands.
Yeah, and the initial, as I thought at the beginning of all this, that there would be no breaks in the central barrier, that everything was going to be divided, this concrete barrier. So my thought on it would be, why not put a pedestrian footbridge over that at that particular point, which would be the safest thing. Health and safety, as you know, that would be the safest thing for pedestrians going from one side to the other.
Have you raised this issue with any of the councillors or with Donegal County? It does certainly seem to be a good idea. Certainly, you'd see bridges like that around Dublin. I will often stay at a hotel close to the Red Cow roundabout, and there's one of those pedestrian bridges. If you go walking in the morning, there's a bridge that goes over what is effectively the end of the Naas Dual Carriageway, as we call it, heading for the M50, and it's it's a very effective bridge. It would seem that Donegal doesn't have the capacity to have such a bridge here.
I don't think we've joined up thinking here in Donegal because, as you'd probably be well aware, the whole mishmash of roads and their crossings and things like that. But this would be something that would be health and safety. It would be really something to think about and do. And I didn't think about this until I was listening to the programme on, was it Thursday or Friday? It was on with Gray. Mm-hmm. And I just rang Caroline in with that. Now, bearing in mind one thing, that if you go further out the dual carriageway, there is an underpass for cattle to cross from one field to the other.
Yep.
Right? Now, if we can do that for the cattle, surely we can do a safe and productive safety thing for pedestrians to cross from one side of the road to the other, especially a dual carriageway. Like, I mean, dual carriageway and its name, there should be no crossings on it unless they're done by either roundabouts or traffic lights. And, it's very simple.
Yeah.
They're spending a fortune on things that, on that road, that probably, when they look about it, could have done without that, but we can't do without this overpass.
Yeah. And as you said, maybe it's slightly ironic, but one of the big things they're doing actually is putting much improved footpaths on both sides of that road.
Yes.
And in fairness, and it's a good thing. And I'd have to say, as someone who would do a bit of walking, I absolutely welcome that, because it's not been the easiest place to walk on up to now. So we're going to have good footpaths, it seems, on both sides of the road. That's a tick mark. But as you say, particularly, and I mean, when people want to cross from the hotel over to the shop, I mean, even that in itself is going to generate quite a lot of people crossing the road. And certainly if there's a function on in Bonagee, if there's a match on in Bonagee and someone wants to nip over to the hotel or whatever, you certainly do have demand for a crossing there. Now, I suppose what Donegal County Council are going to tell you is that road isn't under their control. That road is under the control of TII, Transport Infrastructure Ireland. So, it's kind of out of the council's purview to a certain extent to actually get that done. But maybe if the council and the TII had an old chat, they might get something sorted.
Well, look, there's going to be an odd councillor listening to this discussion now at the moment, Donal, and that they'll come on board and say, well, look, that's a good idea. I'm not looking for any pat in the back for bringing it up, but you go anywhere and you see dual carriageway, you see footbridges, right? Going over dual carriageways and motorways, it's kind of one of them ones that somebody should have been built in. As I say, the central island was supposed to be not broken. This concrete barrier, what the whole work is all about, so that it would be a safe section of road. And then we're expecting pedestrians to take their life in their hands going across the road.
Yeah, and particularly given traffic that's coming down from, say, Lurgy Brack from the direction of Donegal Town, Ballybofey, Stranraer and so on, traffic coming down that way. You come down Lurgy Brack, you're turning left and you're pretty much on top of the hotel immediately. And, if someone is crossing there, it's going to be very late before anyone coming down from Lurgy Brack direction is going to be able to see them.
Well, we see what happens to at the roundabouts where there's crossings so close to them. The roundabouts and around the towns get clogged up,
Yeah.
And it comes to, what is it? Somebody says it's a total gridlock for the period of time until the passengers are across the road.
Yeah.
It's now after knocking all the work that was done, that bit of work that was done up around the schools, the one-way system around there, patting the back to them. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I live not far away from it. I do think that is working. I really personally do think that is working. And I know there was a number of people who were sceptical about it at the time, but it does. Now we've just had we've had a note in from a caller that says planning permission was applied for an overpass for pedestrians 20 to 25 years ago, but it was rejected back then.
Look, 25 years ago. Hopefully we've moved on our thought process. Right.
Well, not only has our thought process moved on, I think over the past 25 years, the level of traffic in and out of Letterkenny has moved on considerably as well. I mean, there's a hell of a lot more traffic on that road than there was 20 years ago.
Definitely so, because, I mean, I've done some work on that road. We've been out in manholes on that road.
Yeah.
And the difference in the traffic level is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Look, see. But... no, I think it's something that's worth taking on board, and if there's anybody listening that can do something about it, I think that's the way to go forward.
Kevin, point well made, and thanks indeed for making it. You take care, and remember, if you want to react to that or any other issue that's on the programme, you can text us or WhatsApp us on 086 60 25,000. Call us on 07491 25,000, 00353 7491 25,000 if you're outside of the dialing area. We're at Highland Radio on Twitter, we're Highland Hub on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram and all other manners of social media. Don't forget, by the way, please do keep sending us in your pictures of the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. We got some great shots last night, and as David Moore said to us, there could be opportunities to see the lights again tonight. AstronomyIreland.ie is their website, and if you subscribe to their social media, you'll hopefully get the forward nod in advance as to when the best time would be to see them. Get yourself in an area where you can see the northern horizon and you're not too affected by light pollution in the way, and you could get to see one hell of a show.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Stop Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25,000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
Need help designing or understanding plumbing requirements for your new bathroom is not a problem. Our experienced staff are equipped to handle any type of bathroom installation, from a simple tap replacement to a complete bathroom overhaul. Call in and see us and view our checklist to make sure you have everything in order. It could save you money and a huge amount of hassle. McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Towers, Buncrana, making things simpler for you.
60 seconds to plumper skin. Almost 9 out of 10 women say they have dehydrated skin. New generation Hydra Essential from Clarins, formulated for 24-hour hydration. It helps skin naturally boost its hyaluronic power. By day, it hydrates and plumps. At night, replenishes moisture levels. Hydrated skin is radiant skin. Visit your local Clarins stockist for a complimentary skincare consultation and Hydra Essential sample while stocks last. Clarins.
Bingo every Monday night at the Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. Snowball is now €1,850 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Caller says, Donal, I was listening to Paul and Jimmy last week and really enjoyed the Horselips tribute band. I know you're going to be with them in Ballabafay. I'm jealous. Yes, indeed. Thank you, caller. I will indeed be in Ballabafay at the Ballard Theatre on Friday night. Swords of Light, the new Horselips tribute band, as endorsed by, among others, Barry Devlin and Jim Lockhart at the Horselips Convention in Belfast in November of last year. So they're playing the Ballard on Friday night, and it is going to be one hell of a gig. We were speaking earlier about services outside of the acute hospital. Caller says, My son got a chest x-ray in Carndonagh Hospital last year. He was 3 at the time. There are many HSC and HSC funded services out there, but very often the GPs aren't aware of referral pathways or are reluctant to refer to community services such as mental health or social prescription, HSC, ecotherapy, day service, wellness cafes, family centres. There should be a greater emphasis as well on social or green prescriptions. And I think anything that improves people's health is to be looked at and, and utilised as best as possible. Another caller says we have a brand new HSC centre in Buncrana, and indeed I've seen it, and it is an excellent centre. We've heard it was for x-rays, but so far it's just a doctor's surgery. Now, hopefully what will be done is that we will, in the course of time, see these new centres reach their full capacity. There's equipment issues, there's staffing issues, there's radiographers to be brought in and so on and so forth. So as we said, it isn't just a matter of sticking a machine into a room and starting doing your x-rays tomorrow. You have to make sure you have your staff and your support services in place, and very often that can be the sticking point. But hopefully we're moving forward. Let's put a few comments to one side and go to Zoom, because we are going to take a little trip through the Barnesmore Gap down to the Abbey Vocational School in Donegal town, where we're joined by Rowan Buchanan, Clodagh Dlacken and Freya Burton. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well indeed. Can I just ask, so that people aren't confused, which is Rowan, which is Clodagh, which is Freya?
So I'm Rowan.
Yeah.
I'm
Freya.
And I'm Clodagh.
Right, and it's great to have you on the programme this morning. The reason you're with us is you've been involved in YSI, which, as I recall, is Young Social Innovators. It's a project called The Greenest Link, looking at public transport in Donegal. Tell us about the project.
So basically, YSI is obviously a national competition that our school takes part in every year. And so this year, our first goal was to pick a project, and we were talking amongst ourselves and sort of putting it towards the group. And we came to the idea that we wanted to work with something in the community, specifically with the global goals and sustainability. And we realized that the local link and the transport wasn't maybe as good as it should be. So we came to that idea that we wanted just to fix some minor issues in it for our community.
Is the problem with the service? Is the problem with the vehicles? Is the problem with the timetable? Is the problem with the community? Where are the problems that you identified?
Well, we did a survey, and actually we found that in the school among students, people find it very hard to find and read the timetables, find and get to the stops where the local link arrives, and also that the local link is usually maybe late or they don't show up.
Freya, from your own point of view, obviously that community interaction was really important.
Sorry?
I said from your own point of view, that level of reaching out to the community and actually getting the community's views and speaking to people was very important as part of the project. It isn't just your opinions, it's actually what people are telling you when you communicate with them.
Yeah, definitely.
So where to then? Once you'd spoken to people, you'd got your findings together. What was the next step, Clodagh?
So our next step was to come up with our plan about how we would take our project to the next level. So last week we were speaking with the YSI Den, and we received €500 funding to help with our project. So one of the things that we would love to do is to print off leaflets with the timetables of the local link, so that we can pass them around to members of our community, such as the elderly, to make the timetables more accessible. And we also have an idea to improve the local link app. They already have it in place, and we hope to add a GPS tracking feature so that we can see if the buses are running late or if they're en route, so that we can plan our journey ahead and allow for any delays. So this would be a huge benefit for everyone when they could see it on their phone.
And do you believe that if people have a clearer idea of the timetables, if people have better access to the timetables, then more people will use the bus? Because it seems to me a lot of people that could be using it aren't using it because they don't know it's going to be there.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that. I think whenever we make more awareness about the local link and we make sure that we do everything we can to make it more reliable, then more people would use the buses, which would be great for our environment too. as it's better to everyone be in one bus than everybody in individual cars.
Yeah. Freya, you've also been reaching out to the local primary schools and trying to get those involved.
Yeah, we're running a poster competition for the primary school kids just to get them more involved in our project and just to educate them a bit more on the importance of sustainable transport. And we plan on just, once the poster competition is over, we want to put these posters just around shops in our local community.
And going back to yourself, Rowan, in terms of what you've achieved so far, I mean, is this making a difference, do you believe?
Well, we believe that this project is more than just for the YSI. We hope that if we can get this changed, then it will benefit the community in the future after this competition is over. And that is our overall goal, to make sure that there is a working local transport system.
Now, what YSI is, as I recall, a competition, Young Social Innovators, and you will be going, I presume, shortly to Dublin to actually present your project and your findings at the national finals?
Yes, well, we have the Speak Out before that. So the Speak Out is on the 30th of March, and that's in Sligo. And that's basically where each team has about 2 minutes to present their project. And then if we get through, then after that, yes, we'll be presenting in Dublin.
And obviously, you're going to be going and saying, look, we didn't just have an idea. We actually went into the community and we spoke to people. And Clodagh, that's going to be important when you're presenting it, because you're not just saying, this is our idea. What you're saying is, this is the community's idea. This is coming from the people.
Exactly, you're completely right. The more people that we have behind us supporting our idea, the more successful that will be.
What's the scope of the project? I mean, how far are you reaching? Is it just Donegal town and its immediate environs, or is this a model you believe can go further?
Well, at the moment, we're just trying to get the surrounding areas in Donegal town, so Killybegs, Dunkeneely, Brucklas, Frosses, etc. But hopefully, if that works, and if other parts of Donegal are the same, they have similar problems, then TFI, which we're hoping to work with, we're waiting for them to get back to us currently at the moment. But hopefully, we'll be able to work with them then to make it across the whole county.
And in terms of local link and working with them, I'm sure you're finding a very receptive ear in local links management because they want to improve their service as much as they can.
Yes, they've been a great help. We are, again, waiting for their response. We have gotten back in touch with them. But in the meantime, we're getting on with our poster competition and the workshop that we're hoping to hold.
Rowan Buchanan, Clodagh Dlacan and Freya Burton, all three of you, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning, and we wish you all the best at the Speak Out in Sligo, and if things go further, we wish you all the best in Dublin as well. And most importantly, we wish you all the best with the project, and hopefully when you're in a few years' time walking down the road and you see the local Link bus pass on time, you can think to yourself, I helped make that happen.
Thank you so much. Bye.
In the meantime, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure, girls. Take care. Bye-bye now. And that is the local link project in Donegal town, part of YSI, the greenest link. And that was Rowan, Clodagh and Freya there speaking to us from the Abbey Vocational School. And it's great to see a project like that that's going to hopefully make a very real and tangible difference in their community. Now, a caller has just asked, have you heard anything about roadworks in Ballabafay, Stranora? They're meant to be outside, potentially outside the chapel, or perhaps work on water mains. I don't want this to be like the crossings where things just happened very suddenly. I don't know is the answer to the question. So what I would suggest is maybe contact, if you want to contact the council, they should know. But in the meantime, if anyone out there does actually know, are there works planned for Ballabafay Stranora? I mean, I know in fairness, Ballabafay Stranora got torn up again and again and again, and that area suffered more roadworks over the past 4 or 5 years than any area, really should. So, hopefully there's not going to be too much disruption there. If you know what the situation is, give us a shout. There's some potentially very important discussions taking place on the protocol. More on that after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The annual general meeting of the Irish Natura and Hill Farmers Association Donegal County Executive will be held in the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny on Monday the 27th of February at 8 p.m. Mr. Charlie McConlogue, TD, Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, will be in attendance. Members and non-members are welcome.
With 231 well underway, are you calling in for a look? Sure, call in for a cup of tea or a coffee and let our sales executives show you the options available in our new Nissan range. With an unbeatable range of vehicles, there's only one garage to visit for your next purchase, and that's iMotors. Visit us in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit imotors.ie.
Are you thinking of changing your car? Then look no further than Inishowen Credit Union for your finance. It's simple. A car loan from Inishowen Credit Union means you borrow the money to pay for your car and the car is yours. No hidden fees or balloon payments. Apply online at www.inishowencu.ie or contact us on 074 9361017. Membership of Inishowen Credit Union is open to anyone who lives or works in the Inishowen Peninsula. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. Inishowen Credit Union is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Hi folks, Paul McDevitt here, inviting to join myself and Jimmy Stafford this Monday night for another edition of the Monday Night Sessions. On the show this week, we welcome the brilliant George Houston. We also say hello to Derry singer-songwriter Brother Ray, and from Gweedore, we say hello to Owen Ferry. So, that's the Monday Night Sessions this Monday night between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. right here on Highland Radio.
Always a great listen, always some great music. Paul and Jimmy truly doing their bit for local and Irish music. Great to see it happen, and always, as I say, a great listen. That's the Monday Night Sessions tonight. Now, as we know, Ursula von der Leyen is meeting with Rishi Sunak potentially today to discuss the Northern Ireland Protocol and a potential breakthrough deal. However, there are a number of outstanding questions, the two main questions being, number one, will the Eurosceptics in Rishi Sunak's own party accept it? And perhaps for ourselves in the northwest of Ireland, an even more crucial question, will the DUP accept it? We're joined on the line by a good friend of this programme, Labour MP Pat McFadden. Pat, good morning.
Good morning.
Pat, you're obviously watching this very closely, what's been happening over the past number of days. The mood music all seems to be correct. The choreography seems to be in place. Everything is looking like there's going to be big movement today. Do you believe that's going to happen?
It looks that way. And if Ursula von der Leyen is meeting Rishi Sunak, everyone is assuming that that's to sign something off that's already really been negotiated and completed. It's not likely that they would meet and not come to a deal. And I think it would be a good thing if it did happen, because the protocol, in the way that it's been operating, has caused significant problems certainly between Northern Ireland and GB. But it's not. This deal is not just about how the protocol has been operating. I think it will have wider significance because it will show a different way of doing business between the UK and the European Union. We've had several years of quite harsh rhetoric. We had a Northern Ireland Protocol bill, which was going to see the UK government unilaterally opt out of a deal that they'd reached, and all of that was going to cause considerable bad feeling, even if it had been possible to go down a different track and try to resolve problems by agreement, and therefore to build goodwill, is a much better approach. And that's why if Rishi Sunak does reach an agreement today, the problems he'll have in Parliament won't be with the Labour Party, who are overwhelmingly likely to support this deal. If he has any problems, it's likely to be on his own backbenches, and as you said, possibly with the DUP.
And that's what makes this a very unique situation, because, I mean, his problem really for the past while hasn't been Labour. Keir Starmer has made it quite clear that he will be supportive of a deal. We're hearing certainly from the Stormont parties, the non-DUP Stormont parties, they're receptive to the idea of a deal. Now, it then comes down to the DUP, because Rishi Sunak did make it quite clear last week that if the DUP doesn't accept the deal, he won't accept the deal. So can we take it that there are back channels open between the DUP, Rishi Sunak and his people, and that those discussions and negotiations are taking place between Rishi Sunak and Jeffrey Donaldson and his colleagues? Or is this going to be Sunak accepting and then going to the DUP and saying, what do you think? Because one would presume it'll be the former.
You would presume it would be the former, but I can't speak for the DUP. or what their response might be. All I can say is that he won't have a problem on the Labour side. We want to have an adult, positive relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union. We're not proposing to rerun the Brexit argument because I think everyone in the UK has been exhausted by it. But we do want to get the relationship in a better place than it's been in recent years. And the way to do that is when there's a difficulty to try to reach agreement on that through negotiation, rather than simply saying you're going to take unilateral action and everybody's going to go to court and all the rest of it. Because we need goodwill. And the other reason that we need goodwill is, events elsewhere in Europe, like Russia's invasion of Ukraine, has put into perspective some of the things that the UK and the EU have been disagreeing about. And I think people have realised through those awful events that we've got far more in common as fellow democracies than some of the things we've been arguing about in recent years when you look at what's happening there.
A lot of the talk obviously has been about trade, but it would appear that one of the main stumbling blocks is the issue of European law and whether the European Court of Justice will have any jurisdiction in Northern Ireland, and what the relationship between the European Court of Justice and Northern Ireland would be. And that's one element of this whole debate that in the general conversation tends to be overlooked. How big an issue is that in your view?
It is a very big issue for some of the people in Rishi Sunak's backbenches. Now, I've not seen the details of this deal, but I would expect that, given that for trading goods, Northern Ireland is effectively part of the single market rule book, that ultimately there will be a role for the ECJ in policing that. That is, they are the court that makes rulings on single market rules. So that's something that Rishi Sunak will have to sell to his backbenchers. Now, it may be that they have steps before that involving courts in Northern Ireland that might make the ECJ more of a, if you like, a distant prospect. But I would expect it to be there somewhere in the background. In reality, it would probably be in very limited cases that something gets that far. So I don't think it will be a big problem in a day-to-day sense. But for some of the people who've got very deep-seated feelings about sovereignty and who should decide what rules, it is a big issue. And he might find that when he's trying to sell this deal.
Effectively, what you're saying is it's going to be an issue of principle rather than an issue of practice.
I think so. In practice, I suspect that, the ECJ is not going to be camped in Northern Ireland making rulings on this, that, and the next thing every day. But there are some politicians in Parliament for whom any rule in any circumstances, no matter how rare, is simply unacceptable. Now, my sense is that Rishi Sunak has said to his party, look, the greater prize here is to get this resolved by negotiation, and this is something you're going to have to accept. And my sense is also that even for some of the traditional Brexiteers, that he'll manage to do that. So it's difficult to know in advance of publication, but it feels like any rebellion on the government side will be containable for him. We'll see if that turns out, but as of this moment, it does feel like that.
The next question, obviously, on this side of the Irish Sea is what happens at Stormont. If the DUP accepts the deal, then the barrier to the DUP re-entering an executive is theoretically removed, and we can see a situation where Stormont convenes, an executive is voted in, and we see a government formed at Stormont with Michelle O'Neill as First Minister and a DUP Deputy First Minister, be it Paul Givan or whoever it may happen to be. Obviously, Jeffrey Donaldson will be at Westminster, so it won't be him. One suggestion that's been made is that effectively the DUP will move hell and high water not to be in government with a Sinn Féin First Minister, and that in itself is one of the stumbling blocks, that the DUP simply does not want to be in a Sinn Féin led government, even though politically the First and Deputy First Ministers are of equal status, give or take. So from that point of view, is that going to be an issue, or do you believe the DUP can overcome that and actually go into a Michelle O'Neill led executive?
It's harder for me to to speak with any certainty on that. The only thing I would say is, we want the institutions to be up and running. These were we're approaching the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. These were the institutions, that system that you've just described was at the heart of the agreement. And the heart of the agreement was Northern Ireland would have devolved bodies to make decisions on those things that should be decided there. And the longer the institutions are in abeyance, that's not happening. Big decisions aren't being taken. You've got this sort of holding pattern of civil servants having to make decisions without proper ministerial involvement. So, I think it's in the interest of the people of Northern Ireland to have proper government there, and that's what's supposed to happen. So I hope that if there's an agreement, it paves the way for that to happen. But I'd be less sure about making predictions on that than I have on other parts of what we talked about.
Absolutely, yeah. And certainly there are issues, certainly on this side, where we're seeing weekly statements from various political parties saying we want to implement X, but we can't because there isn't a minister at Stormont to sign off on it. And even there's a very important strategic rail review which is awaiting publication, and at this point in time it hasn't been published, and one of the reasons it hasn't been published is we don't have a transport minister to sign off on it. So certainly there are practical issues that maybe Rishi Sunak and his supporters and people in England, Wales and Scotland aren't seeing, which are very real on the ground in Northern Ireland and impacting on the border counties as well, where you actually have situations where things can't move on and things can't happen. We saw, for instance, electricity benefits and subsidies that were passed on across the rest of the UK are only being rolled out in Northern Ireland now because they didn't have an actual mechanism to get them paid. So even something as key and important as that in the current financial circumstances, that was delayed. So from the point of view of Stormont,
the longer it goes on, and the longer it goes on, probably the more examples you could rack up. There are certain things you can do administratively, but it's better to have elected politicians to whom the civil servants can give advice, get authority, get decisions, get direction. That's what democratic government's supposed to be about. And it's been in abeyance for too long. But, nobody can force these things, and it takes the parties to want to participate. I hope that's an outcome of today if we get the result that we're expecting. But, it's difficult. It's difficult to predict.
Well, we'll see what unfolds in the coming hours. In the meantime, Pat McFadden, Labour MP, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, and good morning to all your listeners. Thanks very much.
Thank you indeed, Pat. Pleasure as always. That's Pat McFadden there, Labour MP, and as I say, a long-standing friend of this programme. Just looking at some comments with regards to that crossing close to the Bank of Ireland there in Ballybofey. Caller says, I think the crossing is a good job. The traffic stops for you. I was in yesterday. It saved me walking down the town. Absolutely. The location is not the issue. And I think in fairness, our earlier callers did say that. The location isn't the issue. The issue a lot of people have with that crossing in Ballybofey is the fact that it's not signposted and it's not lit, and the specific issue was at night. Certainly by day, if there's a clear view of what's happening, it's a very good crossing indeed. And I think the feeling too is that sort of the twin towns were used as almost as part of an experiment, where in one area they did put up the signs and the other area they didn't put up the signs, and the Twin Towns was the area that got the short straw and didn't get the signs. So it's hopefully all going to be resolved over the course of the coming months. Right, this is the 9 till noon show. It's 30 minutes to 12 o'clock. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Donegal County Council would like to remind farmers to follow good agricultural practice for the land spreading of slurry from the 1st of February. Farmers and contractors should pay attention to the weather forecast and not apply slurry or digest it to land which is waterlogged, flooded, likely to flood, or if rain is forecast within 48 hours. Avoid spreading within 5 metres of any drain or 25 metres from a well, spring or borehole used for drinking water. As of this year, all pig slurry must be applied using low-emission slurry spreading equipment. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. Dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Local Enterprise Week is back, and 2023 is all about finding that spark to inspire you to start, grow, or scale your business. Running from Monday the 6th to Friday the 10th of March, Local Enterprise Week is organised by Local Enterprise Office, Donegal. This year's events will stimulate creative thought, motivate action, and encourage you to be brave in business. Booking is essential. To see the lineup of events and speakers, and to book, visit localenterprise.ie/Donegal or call 07491 60735.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Lanzarote is back. Check out our new summer flights to Lanzarote with Ryanair starting March 28th. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Looking at the weather forecast from Met Éireann, and Met Éireann are giving us a reasonably positive forecast for today. They are telling us that as far as the forecast is concerned, today it's going to be a bit sunny actually, with mainly dry weather, a little bit of cloud about, but not all that much, and we can expect one or two scattered showers, and temperatures today in around about the 6 or 7 degrees mark. Tonight the temperatures will go slightly below zero. Temperatures set to hit tonight in or around about the -1 to +3 degrees Celsius. Possibility of a few showers tonight, but not many, and by and large it should be clear. And referring back to our earlier conversation with David Moore from Astronomy Ireland, that means we may get to see the Northern Lights tonight. Now, there was announcements about aquaculture at the weekend, and some announcements for Donegal, but a caller not happy, saying farmed oysters are not environmentally friendly. They destroy beaches and the native fish flora and fauna. You are giving credence to on board the Ishikawara in a bid to give farmed oysters a good name. Go back to all the opposition to the oyster farms in Donegal coastal communities in recent years to see the spin that BIM are putting on the situation. Also, oysters are flown to China and Singapore. Do they count this into their carbon emission projections? So asks a caller. And we just got the INMO's trolley watch figures in Letterkenny University Hospital this morning. 27 people awaiting beds, 16 of them on emergency department trolleys. That's the figure from Letterkenny nationally. The total 575 awaiting beds, and of those 449 on emergency department trolleys. Now, I want to go to Barry Murphy of Bodywise, and thank you, Barry, for your forbearance. I know you've been in that waiting room on Zoom for a while. Bodywise looking in particular at the issue, Barry, of men and boys with eating disorders. It's an issue we've discussed before, but it's an issue you believe needs to be discussed more.
Yeah, certainly. I think men's experience of eating disorders have often been overlooked, both, I think, by the field of eating disorders and kind of the public's awareness of same. So they would say potentially 1 in 4 eating disorders are affecting men and boys in particular. And for that group, you know, there is that heightened stigma around what's been historically framed or called, quote, kind of a female illness. And it very much is something I think families as well kind of sometimes struggle to get their head around, that a boy or a man can experience an eating disorder too.
1 in 4, that's 25%. I mean, I must be honest and say I would have not expected as large a figure as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common question, I suppose, from journalists, you know, why men, and then second, you know, why the increases in men. And I suppose it's a couple of things happening in parallel, I think, in my opinion. So we know from the Australian experience that risky behaviours around food, weight and exercise have been on the increase in men for a couple of decades, and that's by no means unique to Australia. We know from research carried out from the University of Galway, there was a statistically significant increase in young people trying to diet or lose weight, and particularly boys in the 15 to 17 range. And so that's a risk factor. We know that I think boys and men's bodies are kind of more objectified than the they have been in the past. And then also we know sometimes there's a big piece around steroids. It's not necessarily something we see directly in our work, but I think it is there again from the Australian experience. And then there's a piece around this idea of protein, and this is something you should pay attention to and scrutinize. And so kind of out of all of that, I think that's sometimes why boys and men fall down the dark path of an eating disorder.
Is it linked then potentially to gyms and places like that? Because certainly anyone that frequents gyms will notice more and more you're going to see the big tubs of whey powder and other supplements and so on and so forth. And it seems in recent years that's grown quite a lot, and it's being presented as something that's desirable, something that's necessary to build, as you say, to build up the muscles and build up the protein. And maybe it's setting people down a path that's not necessarily right for them.
Yeah, I mean, we live, I suppose, both in an information blizzard, and at the same time, there's a lot of misinformation from sometimes as well people who aren't necessarily qualified in this area, and it can be sometimes quite a simplistic kind of before and after picture presented. And in a sense, it can be like the body is a means of production. This is something you should be kind of constantly working towards changing. And I think for male athletes in particular, it can be the hardest to reach when they're experiencing an eating disorder, because they may not kind of want to get help.
Do the disorders present themselves differently in men and women? Very often in women we're talking about, say, anorexia nervosa. Is the experience of men different, or is it similar expressions of the disorder, similar ways in which it affects them?
There would be some similarities and then some differences. So I suppose, historically, that we know more about women's experiences, and a lot of the diagnostic tools out there have been based on women's experiences, and that's kind of been one of the criticisms, that kind of the field of eating disorders hasn't really been set up effectively to capture men's experiences. So we know there's a piece around this idea of muscle dysmorphia, and that's sometimes alluded to as kind of reverse anorexia nervosa, where a person gets locked into this kind of cycle of constantly building muscle mass. And the difficulty there is it's never enough. In the same way with anorexia nervosa, weight loss is never enough. It's this constant push. And for men, I suppose that it can be a lot too around kind of compulsive exercise and the frequency of training. And a red flag there is, a person not being able to take a day off, in a sense, or they really push through injury and don't take that kind of rest recovery period, and then that all affects their quality of life.
A caller has contacted us to say, my son is really into working out at the moment. He's living off chicken and broccoli. I'm very worried about him. Am I being overbearing? Am I being over anxious?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I suppose it could be a couple of things. Is it that the person is pursuing this maybe out of some sort of kind of specific diet that they have in mind? What's the impact here, say, on school, college, work, quality of life? Have you noticed any sort of personality change? That can very much come through as well. Are they having difficulties with flexibility? So if you kind of change the family meal plan kind of at the last minute, does that really throw them off in some way? So those would be kind of a couple of red flags. So is it that focus you've described, might it be masking something else, is a question maybe I would be asking.
Obviously, Barry, if people do want to get in touch with you, be they people who think they may themselves have a disorder, or people that have queries like our caller just there, they can make contact with you at Bodywhys. That's BODYWHYS. How can they do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've Eating Disorders Awareness Week just kicked off this morning. So that's all up online, various webinars, and across our social media. We'll have a couple of podcasts and a new animation focusing on a sibling perspective, or people can also contact 012107906 or message alex@bodywhys.ie for support. And then our family program Pillar, which is coming up as well online on the 9th of March.
Barry Murphy, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning. Barry, they're from Bodywise. Just to repeat that web address, it's www.bodywise, that's BODYWHYS.ie, and you'll find a wealth of information there, and hopefully some perspective and some answers. In the meantime, Barry, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's Barry there from Bodywise, and that brings today's 9 till noon show to a close. Thank you indeed to Donna Marie for producing, and also thanks to Anya for all her help on the programme as well. And John Breslin is up next on the 9 till noon show. Not on the 9 till noon show. John's up next on Around the Northwest. Most importantly, thanks to you for listening. Thanks to all our contributors, and thanks to you for your contributions. 9 till noon show back on the air tomorrow morning at 9. But for myself, Donal Kavanagh, have a very good day.
There's a gaggle of monsters you'll see around town in every colour from bright pink to brown.